Pretty righteous time. Huh? That's what we call it. What's going on here? What's happening? Where's Tony? Where the heck is Tony at? So Tony's missing in action.
I don't know. Call him. See where he's at.
Call him. Call him. Let's see what we can call. Let's call Tony and see what he's doing. Real quick, folks. We got to get this going here. We got to get the show going. Let's see. Let's call him and see if we can get a hold of this guy. Hello?
Hello.
Can barely hear this guy. Hold on 1 second. Voice sounds weird. Are you there, Tony?
I am here.
Are you there, Tony? He sounds sounds weird. How far out are you? Show's already started.
My estimate time of arrival will be 5 minutes.
You okay there, Tony? You sounding a bit digital.
Are you tired or something?
I am doing fine. Ha 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 ha. That is ridiculous.
You don't sound fine.
Yeah. Are you broken or something?
What are you talking about, Joshua Turner?
Because I called you up and you sound like a audio, some kind of clips that somebody put together like audio.
Sound like a soundboard or something.
Yeah. Like,
you all right there, pal?
This is ridiculous. I am perfectly fine, human. We are all human, just relaxing. I am almost there.
wow. Okay.
Sounds
all right.
like someone put a 2 in your binary
Well, yeah,
code.
we're trying to figure this out because we heard this the other day and it's kind of weird. Okay, Tony, if that is you.
Are you sure you're Tony?
I am Tony, the one known as Moo-Choo.
Okay.
I don't know, because if I use my brain a little bit, something's not right here.
Something's off here. I don't think it doesn't sound like.
Whatever do you mean, human?
See, that part right there, like you're referring to me is a human. It's kind of.
We are all human. This is how humans talk to each other.
Okay, well, we're gonna see. Maybe we got the wrong Tony here. We're gonna let you go, Tony. Okay, you have a good night. All right. What the heck is that?
I think that was artificial lack of intelligence, Tony.
So that was weird. So that must just be happening to all the different channels. Like people are.
You know what? I heard that.
It's.
I heard that it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
It's
artificial intelligence or AI.
Maybe maybe it's going around.
Mm.
You know, I mean,
I think people are catching it. It seems like it's being contagious.
like a virus or something.
Yeah, it's contagious. Weird. Anyways, folks, I don't know what that was. That was weird. That was really weird. I mean, you go to call somebody and they sound like a robot. I watched that happen the other day on another channel, and I was like, "Wow, that's weird, man." It's almost like he was some sort of audio clips put together, or a robot or something. So weird. So, hey, but we don't have the information here. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. That's how you can get a hold of me, folks. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, we have a Patreon, and it goes from $10 to $50, and we have it all together. We're ready to go. We have been very, very busy. We've been bogged down with a lot of stuff. And so, not the least of which is something we're not even going to talk about tonight. We're not even going to give them the time of day. But we did, get all of it together. I think we just need to find the box with the 2 X's. So if you're out there in your Patreon with the 2 X's, we're trying to find your shirts. So it should be mailed out tomorrow, if not Monday, but I'm pretty sure by tomorrow because we have been slammed with stuff. So get this. This is what happens to me. I drive all the way south, or I'm heading south, and my partner's like, my business partner, he's like, meet me down here. I'm going to be here, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, at least he's there talking to this client. No, we're both stuck in traffic for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then I ended up having to just turn around because he's like, never mind, forget it. I already talked to him. It's done. And I'm like, which I hate because, I want to be able to know what was said. So now I got to go talk to the guy myself first thing tomorrow. So I'm going to get no sleep, and then I got to go deal with that. But, that's such is life. So we got a great show planned for you tonight. We have a guest coming on. He'll be coming on at 10 o'clock as per usual. The information is not on here for Patreon or the...
Yeah, I had to... All of our settings and everything got reset, so I just kind of had to make do, and I just kind of rushed this out so I can get all of our stuff, back to form, because we had to use StreamYard last time because we logged into our normal software and everything was just gone.
Yeah, and we had so much going on today we couldn't even get here,
Yeah, so next time we come back with the live stream, everything will be on the screen and back to normal.
Yeah. So we heard a nasty rumor that there are people that are going to be saying things tonight, and I'm like, you know what? Let them talk about those kind of things. Let them do that on their channel. We're not doing that tonight on PRT. We'll take that to Facebook. That's, we're done with all that here on YouTube or the podcast or whatever. This is, let's get these people, these circus monkeys out of here. This is a time for us to come together as a community. I'm going to start off with a story, but I'm trying to get some people in the chat first once everybody starts showing up, and we'll get busy here. We'll get after it. What does that say? Oh, geez. Tyler, thank you for that donation,
wow.
man. We really appreciate it. Couldn't come at a better time.
Incredibly generous.
Thank you for that donation. Still waiting on Tony to show up. That was a weird phone call, wasn't it? It was like...
I don't know. If I were a smarter man, I would say that wasn't real.
That he was a fake, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a made-up, audio clip.
But luckily, I'm not a smarter man. Luckily, I don't use my brain.
There's Tony
so,
right there. We can ask him now.
I'm sure it was completely real. I'm sure.
You think it was real?
Yeah, because and I said if I were a smarter man.
Oh, I would totally
I would think it's
I
not
thought
real.
you were saying you thought you okay.
No. I said no.
Hey, everybody. Hey, what's going on, man?
Running a little late.
Okay, we called you, but that wasn't.
I didn't get a call.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you did. We called.
Somebody may have hacked your account. We talked to you.
No, I mean, I was driving all the way here looking at my phone, so I could have sworn it. I would have seen it if I got a call.
I think you're losing your mind. I think you're losing it.
I
think you
words
guys
are going over his face there. Not that I mind, but it might be a little.
Yeah, I mean, it might actually be a mercy that you can't see this guy's face tonight, but
well,
let me fix that for
like
you.
that was another-
We still love him, even though he's ugly.
totally say that about. What was it that you said?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can say it later.
I'll say it later. I'm waiting for a specific moment because he makes fun of the same things over and over again.
It was funny. I'm not gonna lie.
He was
Nellie's
very-
like, "Don't say that." You see, I'm definitely gonna say that. Oh, we just like to have fun here at PRT, man. That's all it's about, man. We're just trying to have a good time. I'm just a good old boy, We're just trying to have fun, but not too much. You can't have too much fun because too much fun, then you get in trouble, and then you get put in the timeout room. So, hey, Vault, what's going on? Good to see you in the chat. He says you may need to call his mama so she can verify. No, seriously though, we called you, and it was like it sounded like a robot,
I didn't get a call.
like a robot version of you.
I mean, I was kind of on my phone. I mean, I wasn't joking about that. I was kind of on my phone the whole time.
Maybe it was actually the robot version of Tony in one of his. You have 2 different accounts, so maybe that one has been hacked.
Oh, it's another me? That's hilarious. Well, you can come do this show then.
I said with
We'll
the
take turns.
artificial lack of intelligence, Tony.
Oh, that makes sense.
I guess we'll never know.
We will
I guess
never
we will
know.
never know if
I don't
that's
know.
the truth or not.
I'm
Well-
pretty sure it's real. I'm pretty sure we talked to him and he's lying.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's what folks. What do you think there?
Like I said, if I were a smarter
is that the real
man,
Tony?
I'd have my suspicions.
I don't know. What
But
to
I'm
say.
not very smart.
That
I
seems-
don't
Somebody
like
said
using
check
my
the
brain.
volume. Somebody says that. If I allowed, say check the volume.
Is it bad?
Is the volume bad? I'm like this. Is the volume off? Is it not working?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, there's been a rash of people trying to be funny lately, you know, and you can't. Okay, you can't. I'm talking to someone in particular, but they just stop with the fun. You're not funny. It's not funny. You can't do it. Okay, it's either got it or you don't. You know, people trying to be cute. We get to about 300 folks, we'll start cracking it. But Vault of Nightmares. Yeah, exactly. It's probably what we need to do. We need to figure it out. We need to go out there and figure it out.
Let's go investigate.
Yeah. Thank you, dear healer. I appreciate that. And there's a lot of people that have sent me messages regarding that, the books, and I am very happy with the way they've come out. So, yeah, I very sad. On another very sad note, I had to have a talk with Bettina earlier. We had a messaging and whatever, and she's wanting to quit. We can't let her do that. We can't let her do that. She's now saying she's going to stay doing her show, but she's not going to participate in the community, and I don't want that. That's very unfortunate. Bettina Moss is a very good friend of mine, and we're not going to get into the how or why today because we're not going to do it. But suffice it to say that she's just tired of being messed with, and so it's a very sad thing. And it'll really hurt my heart if she decides to drop out. There's other people that are telling me they're just sick of it and everything because of all this stuff that's been going on. And like I said, we're not going to say anything. We're not going to get into the whole. But do me a favor, folks. Send us prayers, please, and good thoughts and vibes. And do me a favor and show your support for Bettina and that you stand with her, that she'll get through this period where she's the way she's been feeling.
Definitely, because Bettina's one of a kind.
She is, and she's a good-hearted person, and I've been friends with her for a while, and many conversations with her, with me and my wife, and with Anthony, Tony, and we don't want to lose that person in the community. There are other people that are talking about it too, and we can't do that, folks. We got to stand together. We got to. We have to. I mean, this is it. I mean, you're either here or you're not. I mean, you know. But we got enough people now. I'm going to get started. So I got a story for you, and this one is really, it's really creepy. And when we were in Fort Worth, we talked to a couple of the different, were they lifeguards or what were they like? I guess they were lifeguards, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we started talking, and one of them asked me a question. They said, "Do you have any stories about water parks?" You know, and about like haunted water parks. And I said, yeah, I do. I told one of them, I believe on the show, a guard, I don't know if did I tell this on the show? There was a guard that got in touch with us who went and he saw these creatures that were jumping around in the water. I think I've told that one. If you've heard that one.
I think you have.
Yeah. Let me know if you've heard this one. If not, I'll go on to the next one because after we looked into it and summer's almost over, we found some pretty weird stuff. We got a story from someone who goes by the name of T. I will give him that. I'll say that. Still works at this place, and they had what can only be described as a strange reptile type being. The water park in question where he works. I don't know if we should say we're even close where it's because I mean he still works there and they're not interested in being scared.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay, all right, yeah. Because they're not really interested in scaring people and making them not go to their water park because if people thought that this thing was there, they'd probably freak out and not go. So T gave us a story, and what he told us was pretty terrifying. And I'll tell you, there was a situation where the security guard that worked there, there was an overnight security guard that worked there or works there, not just somebody that drives through or whatever, because they had some vandalism that was going on. So they switched from a patrol where the guy just comes in and walks the grounds every couple of hours and then leaves to a standing guard. Okay, like I said, I don't want to say where it's at because I don't want anything coming back to where they can say, hey, you cost us business or anything like that. So take it for what it's worth. This person says that he works there still, and that 3 years ago, and supposedly this was on camera. It was partially caught on camera, and the security guard told him this. And what he claims he saw was a lizard man-like thing splashing around in the water, and then it crawled across the park. He watched it stand up and then go back down on all fours and then go back into the water, which was at another part of the water where the lazy river was. So he came out of the wave pool?
Yeah.
And then it went into the lazy river. The description of this thing was what really blew us away. It was kind of like the thing that the guy saw in Baltimore, was like the white reptilian creature that looked like Whiplash from Master of the Universe. When I was a kid, I played with He-Man and, of course, G.I. Joe, but I had the He-Man, the Whiplash guy, and you could spin him and his tail would whip like that. And I didn't try to put thoughts or ideas into his head, but I did tell him, I said, let me ask you a question, T. Did you yourself see this creature? He says, no, I got the story from the security guard. He goes, but I did something even better. I saw it on camera. And so I said, does the security guard still work there? He says, yes. So the people working there that run the place, the only people that are supposed to know about it are the people that run the place, the security guard and him. Because the security guard told him, I'm not going to show anybody else, but he's friends with the security guard. Of course, he got the guy the job. And he's like, I want to show you something. And there on the camera was this lizard man type creature with a sort of really small, the way he described it, it looked like almost like a crocodile, the way it was swimming, but it had a really short snout on it. And then when it stood up, you could see that it had like weird like arm appendages. Now I asked him if I could get a copy of this video, and he said he'd see what he could do. But I don't like showing people videos or pictures because it always ends up in a big argument, a big fight. People don't believe it. They want to act like it's, whatever, and then there's just a big old uproar about it, and then you look like an idiot if you somebody says, "Oh my gosh, something in a water park." That's not the only story we got. We had another one from another water park where these little creatures were actually jumping in and out of the water at night, and it was a patrol security guard who went through there. And so those are our two big stories that we got from the water park. Now we did get a few stories from a haunted. What was that place that we got the story from? We were eating at the seafood place. Kemah.
Oh,
in Kemah, yeah. And that guard there said that place, when it shuts down at night, is haunted as heck. Mm-hmm. And he saw something swimming around the water. So there again, it's like people report like ghosts and things like that, and then they see reptilians and things in the water. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, that's... And it was funny the way it happened, too. We were sitting there, we were eating, and we talked to this guy. We were outside, I think, and Nellie was in the candy store. Yeah. And it was hot as heck.
Yeah, I remember we were melting out there.
Anthony had like an ice cream, and it was just like you could see it melting in real time.
My hands, and I can't stand that stickiness from sweet stuff melting. I hated it.
It was just like it was like this, and it just went flat, and just like I watched it real It's not like you look over and it's melting. You know how you look. No, it was just like, and then Nellie was in there getting an ice cream, and then she comes back out, and that was the girl that told us that was Filipino. She was Filipino, and the restaurant. What's that place called?
Oh, I'm not gonna remember the name of that restaurant.
God, it's a good place to eat.
Where is it?
They're Filipino.
It's in Kemah.
Kemah.
What is that?
8 something.
Pure 8.
Pier 8.
Pier 8.
I was wrong.
I was going to say
will
Pure
remember the name.
8. Pier 8. But I'm getting off track. We'll get back to that one. Let me just one thing at a time. Here's what happened to the water park. The guard says, "Let me show you something." He shows him. According to T, he goes out to the water. This is the water park, right? And he flashes his light out there. He shows a light. And then he catches a glimpse of this thing, crawling into the water. But when you see the video, when he goes to the camera where he was at by the pool, where there's like a regular pool. I don't remember if he said it was a wave pool or a regular pool, but it crawls up out of there. And I believe he said it crawled for a little bit and then stood up and walked, kind of hunched over, and then got down and then did it again and then got into the water. And when I sent him a picture of Whiplash, I said, this is very close to what some people told me that they had seen in Baltimore, walking down the street, like on the sidewalk. And then another person told us they saw it behind a trash can. And then we got some people that drove by. So they were like, because the first person that sent us that story, there was about a month or something that went by, and I messaged the guy and I said, hey, do you have any more witnesses that could come forward? Because he had said he had some. I said, do you still have those witnesses? And he said, yeah. And sometimes people will say that and then they won't get back with you. And then you're just left, okay, kind of to twist, is this person going to get back with me or whatever? And then you don't know. But yeah, they actually got back with us. And it was very weird. So anyway, this guy told us that this creature got into this like lazy river or whatever and was kind of splashing around in there. And you can see, according to T, like at the beginning of the video, this thing is swimming around for a while. He's kind of floating in the water. He comes from this back area where there's like a bunch of undergrowth, like a bunch of brush. And he crawls over that, and then he climbs. You see, you can't really make out that part of it, according to him. He's like, you said you can't see him crawling over the fence. But he says you'll see like something crawl over the fence and then jump down from the back side of this pool. And he says, at that point, you can't make out what it is. And then he goes, you'll see, and I guess he's planning on showing me. He's like, this thing swim across the water, and then it goes up into, and then begins to do what it does. And he said that it was there. He said when the guard saw it with his flashlight, you immediately see the guard turn around and run back toward the home base. And so he says the guard was just like floored. He was like, I'm not messing with that. And I said, how tall do you think it was? And he says, well, you can kind of see there's like this sign right there where it walks by. He's about 7 foot long. I said, now, when he said 7 foot long, I asked the question, 7 foot tall standing up? Or are you talking about 7 foot long with the tail? Because you have to ask that question. He goes, oh, if you're adding the tail in there, it's about 8 foot long creature, 9 foot long creature. So that's a long creature. You know, you're looking like a 9, and according to the security guard, this thing looked like it weighed several hundred pounds. So you can see why he wasn't eager to go and confront it. Now, he went back inside, watched it on camera, and immediately after him returning, it does decide to kind of get out of the pool, out of the lazy river thing, and then crawl away and goes on. So there's that. And I will say this creature, and I told him I wasn't going to give him any coordinates. I will give you a hint. It's in a very large state. Let's put it that way. So, yeah.
I think seeing something like that in a water park would be, I mean, not to trivialize it, but it would be much easier to take, like if you just saw it going down water slides and then going back up, and going up the stairs and like sliding down.
Yeah, because then it's just having fun.
Yeah.
You know what they like? They like evil, darkness, and blood, but they like to have a good time. He
Yeah.
just wants to, when he's not chomping on the backs of people's heads in elevators, he just wants to, enjoy some fun. Slides. No, it wasn't slides. No. That is a weird thing. And like I said, folks, I don't have any confirmation or anything like that. This is what somebody told us. But it is an interesting story, and I thought that it was a good story for the show. Now we're going to go back to what was told us at Kemah, and we never talked about this. And it's a ghost story, but it does involve, because we didn't know how many alligators were over there. You remember when we drove over that little bridge, and we shined the light, and Nellie shined the light, and there were all these eyes, and I was like, oh, dude, but then you're reminded that's far East Texas. There's gators over there. And so when you're driving through there, you see, what it is. It's East Texas is very much like Louisiana. If it's really weird. Like if you were to go to like northern Texas, of course, it's kind of like Oklahoma, and then you go to East Texas, at least the southern to the mid part, it's a lot like Louisiana. A lot of Cajun influence, whatever. And you go a little further north, and there's Arkansas. And then you got our neighbor to the west, which is New Mexico. Now, if you're in western Texas, it's just like New Mexico. Like Carlsbad is right there. If you're like in El Paso, you can just go up to Ruidoso or Carlsbad. They're all right there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like where does Texas end, New Mexico begin? Same thing with Louisiana. I mean, if you stop to change a tire, you're deep in East Texas, a gator might run across the road. We have alligators here in Texas. People don't know that. People don't realize that we have all these different landscapes here, but we do, and like where we live, there's hills. We're in the hill country. Where we live, there's small mountains, big hills, put it that way. And you're driving through the hills, and it's kind of windy. And if you don't know the roads, it can be a little bit treacherous. But it's very, very odd occurrence, and I'm glad that I've never been at a water park and had to get confronted by a reptilian giant lizard creature, and don't know what it was, but it was humanoid shaped. So yeah, and so this person says, I believe that these things exist, and that's how he started the conversation. And I'm like, okay, why? And then messaged me back, well, this is why. And so yeah, apparently he's seen them. Waiting for the video. Looking forward to seeing it. I hope, and maybe I can show a few people. I don't know, but I'm going to see what he says. We'll see what happens. But we got a guest coming on. He'll be on here in about 20 more minutes. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about pertaining to paranormal, cryptid, whatever, before I tell this ghost story? Is there anything you want me to start looking into before we get started with this one? Because I'd like to be able to just, if we need to. Somebody says, I was in Seguin, Texas 5 months ago. Too hot. Yes, it's very hot. It's getting better, though. It's cooling off a little bit now. We're now in like the low 90s, I think, right?
Yeah.
But, after being in like the 110, it feels like fall.
Yeah, I step outside to walk the dogs, and it's like 92 degrees, and I'm just like, oh, finally.
Yeah. Hey, Larry Fisher, I see you there. Larry is a sponsor of the show, Larry Fisher and Sons Roofing, and he's also a very good friend of mine. And give him your business. I stand with him. He's a good guy, and he's got a company, and they do roofing. So Larry Fisher and Sons. War Criminal, good to see you in the chat tonight. All the good people here. Brett, how you doing, Brett? Yeah. So the Crazy X, are you the Crazy X, or what are you saying there? Somebody's saying that there. You gotta. Are you the Crazy X? We don't know. I mean, I think everybody's got one. Are you it? You're the embodiment, the avatar of all of them. I'll tell you this. I got another story that I want to tell, but I'm gonna give you whet your appetite a little bit for Sunday. We're gonna talk about skinwalkers, and very popularized subject. People are asking what they are, what it means, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then one question before I start talking about Kemah. Did you guys watch the show that I did with Eric Palacios last night? Raise your hand if you did. And if you did, tell me what you think. Because we cover a lot of stuff in this area, talking and dealing with this area. Wendy goes, why Artistic Bunny? Why? Why do we need to be plagued with these creatures?
I wish I had wind to go away.
They need to go away. So when me and Anthony were in Kemah, Bling's asking about work. Do we need him? All right,
Tonight?
folks, we got to work. Got to do work. Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I didn't know who Crazy X was. So here's what I'm going to tell you. We have a really, really weird story that came from what people are telling us in this small town in Texas, and we're going to go check it out. We're actually going to make a road trip out there on our way to Houston to meet with someone, and they claim they're telling us that there's a set of baseball fields, and I don't know if this is true. This is what we've been told, okay? And it is here in Central. Well, it's in. What would it be considered? East Central Texas?
Yeah.
It would be East Central Texas. And they claim that there are a series of baseball fields, and they were built on land that they were not supposed to be built on, and people claim to see ghosts there. And this one person who sent us a very compelling photo, we don't think it's fake, but it's a compelling photo. And so what I was thinking, and we go out there and we could check, and I was going to surprise Nelly. Surprise, honey, we're going to haunted baseball fields. And so
You're going to love it.
Go out there and play ghost ball.
you're going to love it. Something pushes you down. You're like, what did you do?
You having fun?
Why are you laying on the ground like that? Are you hurt? While you're running away.
Yeah.
You're the smallest. You're going to get...
Take one for the team.
We played baseball out there, and I end up hitting Nelly. I'm like, oh, there was a ghost, Nelly.
The ghost did that. The
Come
ghost
on,
threw the
Nelly.
ball. My hand slipped. I was trying to throw a curveball. It just
The ghost grabbed it and hit you in the face with it. The bat, Nelly. It was not me. I would
I'm
never.
not that kind of person, man.
We don't believe in that.
I'm a good guy. I don't throw balls at people.
No.
And so, and not to make light of this person's, encounter story, but yeah, it was pretty claiming that there are several people who have seen ghosts there and who have taken pictures of them, and so we're going to go by and we're going to see what the big deal is because it's on the way anyway, and we'll report back and let you know if there's something that's really there. So we were in Kemah. And one of the weird things that happened, we were told that the area of the amusement park, there is an amusement park there. Is it called something in that place? I don't know if there's a name for that. It's called something, right?
The amusement park?
Yeah, the amusement park. Somebody that worked there
think
told
so.
us this. This is probably 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't think much of the blizzard thing in the water that these people were telling us. And the reason we didn't think much of it and didn't really, I'm sorry, but we didn't really care because we thought, well, after we saw the gators, we're like, well, that's what it is. And we didn't want to scare Nellie because we wanted to get her to go out on the boat. And we were like, and I at that time I thought, and I'm sorry, honey, I had to tell you that, but I thought that if I told her, she would be like, I'm not getting on that boat. There's alligators out there. But of course there's alligators out there, okay? But this person claims that, and there's like an aquarium there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get to go to that. We just stayed out in the heat and melted, even though it was night. So there's all these rides and all this stuff there, and there's like this one of those big boats that rocks back and forth. There's a roller coaster, and there's a couple other cool rides. There's like several rides there.
Oh, you know what? It's just called the boardwalk.
The boardwalk.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's called the boardwalk. The Crazy X. Thank you for that donation. We appreciate it here at PRT. But here's the thing. The one girl the guy that worked there said, ask about the candy store, or it was a candy store, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so Nellie is in there enjoying delicious treats. So I'm not going to say, hey, guess what? Because Nellie doesn't really want to go like into haunted places. It really, because like what happened at the Black Swan Inn really freaked her out. And I have a story about that too. I'm going to tell you the Black Swan Inn story. It's freaky, freaky, freaky. I forgot to tell you. You remember how she gave us that story?
Yeah.
She talked
Did she
to
get
her.
back to you?
She talked to her aunt
Man.
and told me what she what she thinks her aunt thought her dad was talking about, because she didn't really know. Because remember, we were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we went to go eat at Taco Palenque.
Yeah.
Folks, that place is man. Okay, it's like fast food, Mexican fast food on steroids.
It's like Taco Cabana, but the service is
Way
good and the
better.
food is good.
And then the green sauce.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Tony, you got oh boy. And you could have gone, but you were like, no, I'm gonna stay here. I've been tired or whatever. So we went to the convention without you. But the place called Taco Palenque, they just opened one up here in Austin. It's really good. You got to check it out. You know, now I got to say this: we haven't tried the one here yet. So I'd be lying if I told you that one was good, because we haven't tried it yet. It opened on
It just opened this past Wednesday.
27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were doing our show about.
Well, I'll try it first.
How is that? Because I'm going there right after this.
I'll eat my taco first.
I will order mine and force you to not get yours.
Him eating one taco is going to take all day. He can't eat anything first.
Y'all could not be more
Okay.
different when it comes to the food consumption.
Yeah, he eats all day and then eats more. If he starves for one day, all of Africa could eat. All right, so I'm just holding up my part because I'm a selfless human being. And then he spends 45 hours a day on the toilet. There's not even that many hours in a day.
Man's got to eat,
He
Tony.
pauses time so he can stay time on the toilet.
Okay, a man's got to eat, and I'm regular, and I'm not apologizing for that.
No, but you do.
Not
Like
apologizing for
Tony
being
made a
normal.
joke at the table though today at Skyguard. He says you do the toilet world tour. What was it?
Yeah, he visits every toilet in the tri-state area.
Tri-state area.
Well,
what is? We'd be the 5-state area, I guess. What the heck is that?
I need to christen, everywhere that I'm at.
So you're just gonna go poop in every toilet you can find, right?
No, okay.
I hate when he says he's gonna go to the bathroom, because you know he's gonna go in there and be gone.
He's just full of crap.
Well,
He just
okay.
stays full of crap.
Because I'm going to be gone, and then I'm going to come back and eat some more. But I usually say,
You eat a lot.
I usually
You
get
eat
up
more
and
than I
say,
do.
He eats a lot.
He eats more than I do.
I usually get up and say I'll be in my office.
Yeah, and you are very regular. But Tony's like, it is so weird, because like today, Tony took like 4 bites of his food, and then I saw him push the bowl away, and I
Yeah.
saw Anthony's
Well,
look
I
of
already
disgust on his face, like, man, like. And then Nelly was like laughing because. Tony is the exact opposite. He eats so little, and Anthony eats so much. But you're both just scrawny. I don't get it. I don't.
Well, that's why I eat so much.
No.
Yeah, imagine if he didn't eat, how fucking tiny he'd be.
Yeah, I'd look like this guy.
You look like that guy, except your arms are more toned and bigger a little bit.
He weighs like, 5-10 pounds more than me? He acts like it's such a big difference.
Well, the other day, Tony said, Anthony, I told him that. I said, Tony weighs more or weighs the same as you. And he said, yeah, it's all his head. He got a big head.
Yeah.
So I got a friend working on a cowboy hat for me. I'm going to actually get one. I'm going to get a cowboy. I'm going to get
That'd
a
be
hat.
really cool.
And I'm going to, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. You just said that. So I'm going to get a hat and wear it, because I want to look cool like all these outlaw cryptid hunters out there. I think it'd be cool. What do you guys think? Wear a cowboy hat instead of? I've always wanted to wear a cowboy hat. I've had several, but I don't have anything to wear them with. Like, I'm the only person in my dad's family, Tony, my lion, that doesn't wear cowboy boots on a regular basis.
Oh, no. I mean, they all.
I am the only one. And then my mom's family, half of them are vaqueros.
Yeah, I was going to say on both sides.
Yeah, both sides are they like to wear boots, and they're very country people on both sides of my family. But
I feel like a couple of city slickers every time it's like Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like,
the only ones wearing like
out to the farm.
regular
and-
shoes. You got to the farm, and everybody's out there. Hey, man,
Boots, and this is, I mean, it's always a good time.
we
But
have a great time. We put the hay bales up, and this may be. We were thinking last year would be the last Christmas at the farm, but this one probably will be
yeah,
the last Christmas at the Turner farm.
it's unfortunate.
It's going to be sold. Progress came and took its toll. And in the name of flood control. You ever heard that song? It's a very good song. Seminole Wind. It seems to be kind of happening everywhere now. It's sad. But here's the thing. We were there at Kemah, and this guy says, let me introduce you to the security guard. The security guard was standing there, and he told us, we were eating, I can't remember where the place was. My wife could probably tell me. We were eating at this seafood place. And this guy says, yeah, and he comes in there. I can't remember what the name of it was. And he started talking, and At one point, my wife got to go to the restroom, which I was glad for because I didn't want her to hear all this scary crap about that. And he said there was a hotel there that was haunted where there supposedly had been like somebody that was unalived there. You know, you're not supposed to say whatever, the M word, because people get sensitive, whatever. But then there was this story that we got that we kind of just took it as with a grain of salt. They said that they saw this reptile-looking creature moving around between. There's all these boats that are docked there, and at night when they were closing up, one of the people that worked there said they saw this weird-looking reptilian-type creature come up out of the water, but it wasn't on two legs at any point. So I just thought, okay, this is a gator. Mm-hmm. But the girl that was telling us, she saw it, got a better look at it. They were very adamant, these two people. They were just like, nope, it wasn't an alligator. We don't know what it was. So who knows what was there? Who knows what had happened? One of them used to live in Galveston, and she told me a weird story. She claims to have seen the ghost of, we've talked about this before, pirate ghosts in Galveston.
Oh, yeah.
But she saw this would scare the crap out of anybody. Imagine you're sitting on the beach, enjoying the mosquitoes, with all the bug spray and everything else, and the jellyfish. I'm joking, folks. Galveston's not my cup of tea.
It's not my favorite beach.
It's me neither.
Port Aransas is just right down.
Port Aransas is my place. I don't even like going to South Padre because it's overpopulated. Yeah. So Port Aransas is where it's at for me.
It's too commercialized in South Padre too.
Padre Island's good, but not. I don't like to go all the way to South Padre. There's too many kids down there. It's a big spring break spot and all this. But then you have the Galveston, which is like the low-level IQ cousin of Port Aransas. You're talking to Port Aransas, and you're like, yeah, and then here comes Galveston. Hey, what are you guys talking about? Are you talking? Are you talking? And you're like, yeah, Galveston. Hey, how's it going? And you're just kind of like,
It's a weird cousin that comes to.
Yeah, and then they're like, okay, well, if you need me, I'm in the next room. And you're like, okay, yeah. And you're just like, that beach got some problems, man. Oh my God. It's the oil slick. The oil slick is what did it. It really just messed him.
I tried telling Galveston to get off it, but
Galveston just got some problems, man. So, and then you got to try to make. What were you guys? What were you guys talking about? You're like, you don't know what to say. She's got to think of something off the cuff. We were just talking about how great you are, and then somebody like probably Scorpion would be, and we want to hang out with you, and you're like, Scorpion. Why did you say that to Galveston, dude? Come on. And then you got to go hang out with Galveston.
Then we got to leave Scorp and Galveston together.
But so imagine you're on the beach, right? And you're talking to your boyfriend, and this guy is walking. They see sand like coming up behind this guy, and it was dark. Okay, all they had was the moon, and then the guy took his flashlight and looked. This guy's name is Gerald. What Gerald saw would scare the crap out of anybody. This dude, part of his body was translucent. The other part of his body, almost like split down the middle, he said. And I said, well, could it have been because you shined the light, whatever? He says, no. He said, I shined that light directly at him, and part of it was like translucent, and it was kind of like this, like part of his body, He said, what he said was, he didn't say it was like this because he didn't show me, but he said that the midsection was almost all translucent. And then you're right, Bernard, they do got that seafood. You're right about that. Other than that, I'm not real big on being there. But anyway, then it kind of went up, and then it was almost like down the middle. And then below that, from the navel down and his leg, it was like you couldn't see through it. But it was a ghost. I mean, and he said that this thing, it just kind of like, it was gone. And then they're sitting there stunned, and they look, and right in front of them, they see, which he says was a completely different entity. It looked very similar, like it was along the same vein. But it was a man, and it was coming out of the water, and it stopped and was staring at them. And it wasn't one of these like residual haunting type ghosts. No. This thing like ran at them, and they were like backing up, and he was like, I was doing the crab, and then when it ran up on him, she got scared, his girlfriend, and she screamed, and he grabbed her, and then they turned and look, and there's nothing there. Now he asked me if I'd ever heard of anything like that, and I said, yeah. in particular areas of Galveston. And these people not really knowing, because they came to Texas, they are not from Texas, and they were visiting some friends, and they lived in Houston, and they were like, they didn't go with them, but they said, hey, go spend the day in Galveston. Now, Galveston does have the Moody Gardens. I believe it's called Moody Gardens. Look it up. Make sure I'm saying that correctly.
Okay.
Now, that place is cool. It's a really cool place. It's like these pyramids, and you can go. It's really cool. And then they have a Schlitterbahn water park there. And so this thing did that and it freaked them out. And so they got up, and of course they ran for their lives and got back to their vehicle and took
Moody
off.
Gardens.
Moody Gardens, yeah. So if you ever go, check out the Moody Gardens. It's really cool. They got like animals and there's all kinds of stuff there. But it's a cool place. Just not my favorite beach. You know, it's just it's not a. I mean, I've been to some beautiful beaches. I'm not a big fan of other states like California and other places.
Oh, I've been to
I don't
Florida,
mind the beauty of it, and most of the people there are pretty cool. I'm not real big on the LA scene. Let's put it that way. The rest of California, I'm not a problem with. But the beaches. Have you been to California? Yeah, you've been. Did
Yeah.
you go to the beach?
I'm real quick.
Some of their beaches are just knockout gorgeous. And then
Florida has some
Baja,
great beaches too.
Huh?
Florida has some good
Florida, I've been to Florida, got some pretty beaches there too. I've been to the beach in South Carolina, Georgia, some pretty places. Surprisingly, even Alabama has a beach too. But there were some, and there's another thing too I was going to talk about real quick. There, the whole thing that happened with the ghost that they see in Kemah, real quick, I can tell you. There's a legend. Now, we looked into this and we found no truth behind this. What'd they say? They said the roller coaster that used to be there was somebody had died and they got their head was removed.
Yeah.
Okay. But we did a dive on it. We looked into it. Now, we couldn't find anything. Possibly Barry, thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. Possibly what could have happened, and I don't know if this is the truth or not, but the waiter and I'm glad he said that when Nellie got to the bathroom, because I was trying to talk her into going. She's like, I'm not getting on the roller coaster. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And I was trying to talk her into riding some of the rides, and she was just determined not to. And then if she would have heard that, well, she's hearing it now probably for the first time. But if she would have heard that, she would have been like, I was right not to ride the roller coaster. Honey, relax. We found no proof of it at all. But it is an interesting story. And you can't discount what people claim they saw. Now, maybe some of the parts, or maybe that's how the rumor got started. We did find some history of roller coasters, people having problems with roller coasters. A lot of these places that have things happen at their parks, they are very guarded against you talking about it. And I'm not going to mention the name of a humongous company that owns half of the media, who has a park, and they have had a lot of stuff happen. But if you talk about it, you know, so can't really say nothing. But most places are kind of like that. And so we started looking into it, and we found several cases of people. Like we read about one that a guy was literally ejected off of the top of a roller coaster, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you know. So we were at SeaWorld, and one of the people that worked at SeaWorld told us that there was a ghost where, you know how they were building the one roller coaster, but they don't know why it was haunted, because the parts for the roller coaster were all machine new. So the worker there was saying they don't know why they were seeing this. Well, it turns out that there was stuff that had happened somewhere back down a long time ago, which may have caused that. Now, like I said, I got to be real careful about what I say. But that particular area, they told us, hey, it's haunted. And, you know, because I talk about stuff all the time, everywhere I go. We end up talking about it, and we get lots of stories. And so this person said, yeah, there was a ghost that people were seeing as this thing was being built. Once the build, and I messaged him back, and I said, is it still happening? I messaged him about what was that, about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I messaged him back, and it was probably about two months ago. just to see, you know, to talk about, you know, and that particular person was like, no, there hasn't been any more sightings or anything. What caused it? They're not real sure. There's different theories, but it was the ghost of a man, and he would be seen wearing like a uniform, like somebody that would work at a gas station, which I thought was really odd. And then the ghost at Kemah, what they were seeing was a body with no head. So that was weird because they were, you know, and so a couple people said, hey, you know, I could tell you a story. There's this, you know, so we started talking about it. And then they said that there was a ghost that they would be seen. The people at Pier 8, there was a Filipino girl that went in there. I don't think she worked there, but she was good. I think she was friends or something with the owner from the way I understood it. And she claimed years ago, and this didn't happen at Kemah, but that when she was living in the Philippines, she saw what would be considered an undine. Now, she didn't call it that. She spoke really good English. Her husband was in the military, and they became friends, and he was a Marine, whatever, got married. They went on a little boat tour around the Philippines, islands, whatever, and they saw a mermaid. But it's not the way you would think of like a mermaid, like, you know, what's that Splash? What was her name? Not Brooke Shields. Oh God, look up the name of the
Can't help you
actress.
out on this one. I don't know. What
Yeah, that was before your time. It was back in the 80s.
It's a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's called
Splash. I know what movie it is. I just don't.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah, I think her name was, but make sure I'm correct. I always thought it was funny.
Daryl Hannah.
Yeah,
they're
everyone's
saying.
saying Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, yeah. So, there you go, Daryl Hannah. And she was like my age, and she was saying it wasn't like Daryl Hannah. You know, it was this weird creature with this weird, you know. And so it's funny because that story that was given to us, that particular story, because we've been to Kemah multiple times. In fact, one day we drove all the way out there just to eat there, which we just went for a ride. You remember that?
Yeah.
And so we just drove, and we ended up eating there and hanging out for a little while and driving by the beach and then coming back and just pretty dry. There's a lot of pretty places to drive around Texas. And so she gave us that story, and I remember just kind of forgetting about it. And then I was re-messaged by her sister, who says that she had gotten her listening to the podcast, and she'd been listening to me for a few years. And she said, "Did she tell you the story?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I told Anthony, I was like, "She did. She did tell us that story. I just didn't remember it." And so, I'm sorry. That particular trip was you. Wasn't it you and D? I think it was you, me, and D. I'm trying to remember who it was.
I think it was me and D.
It was you and D. And so then I told you, Anthony, about it, and then we never did anything with it. And then I lost her information. Well, she got back in touch with me. Thank goodness, because the story, though, that she gave me was pretty creepy. And it's already 10:05. I don't have time to tell that one. So if you guys would do me a favor and remind me to tell you the mermaid story from the Philippines on Sunday, I'll get to that one. And the Black Swan Inn story, and we'll talk about skinwalkers, and that'll all come up on Sunday. And then we have, what else do we got going on? Tuesday, we haven't decided what we're going to do for Tuesday.
Yeah.
We have a couple different things on tap that we could be doing.
Yeah, and then Thursday we're gonna have the second part of what's a 3-part discussion with Eric Palacios. Which, a quick side note, he's actually in the chat with us right now. His account is called Media Palace. So do yourselves a favor, go check out his YouTube channel, and subscribe to it. His documentaries are on there. He gets into some really, really interesting stuff, and he articulates a lot of information really well. He's very intelligent, and it's impressive. And I think he's only like 3 years older than me. So Eric, you're not allowed to be that smart. You're not allowed to be smarter than me and only 3 years older than me. It's not fair. Okay, you can't speak that well and be that productive and only be 3 years older than me. Just tone it down. All right, chill.
Well, how do you
look bad?
Yeah, you're at about a 9. We're going to need you at a 6.
What about
Yeah.
Ryan Edwards?
Ryan Edwards?
What about him? I mean, that makes me feel absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Ryan Edwards is very smart.
Yeah, Ryan
He's so
Ryan's
accomplished as
22.
well.
Very good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's already on his
22, he's
second
so
book.
accomplished.
I had to write 2 books just so I could get ahead of him. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, you got 1 book. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have 2. How about that?" I wrote that book out of spite. That
Yeah.
Bigfoot book. I'm gonna write this out of spite. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm already on my third one, so I can get ahead of you. I'm like that. You know, when I saw Kenny Irish writing that second book and it was good, I was like, dang it, I gotta write another book. Oh, dang it. I was so mad. I was so mad. I was just, I was fuming. I had to go write another book. That's what I'm going to do because I need 3 because Kenny's got 2. I got to stay ahead of the Joneses, the Jameses, the Johns, and all the other J's, all of them. And I know what you're thinking. Kenny starts with the K. Not my problem. He misspelled his name. Anyways, folks, Liberty said, oh, thank you for that donation, Liberty. God bless PRT and all paratroopers. Thank you. God bless you, Liberty. It was great hanging out with you at the conference. We had a good time. I got to get my guests on now, but we'll have some stuff coming up. It's just going to keep going. We have the best fans. I'm telling you right now. Okay. We have a very, very strong community. I want to give a quick plug to our friends at Hellbent Holler and to our friends, Jerry Williams and Ella. And what is her channel name? I don't know what off the top of my
Jerry
head.
Williams 387.
Well,
Is it?
that's the like the ad, whatever. That's the link. But you can just find them if you just type in his name, Jerry Williams. Like his channel name is Jerry Williams, but the URL is like at Jerry Williams and
Yeah,
like some.
and I
numbers.
think he was on
I
with
can't
Vault
remember.
yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah. Him and Ella were on.
So
with
I
Bob
don't even
yesterday.
know what I didn't get to check that out or see it or whatever, but go check him out. I guess he got interviewed by Vault
Yeah.
yesterday, and then I want to say a big shout out to my friend Bettina. I don't know if she's in the chat, but Bettina, if you are, we care about you. Okay.
Definitely.
And then Abe Seus, what is his again?
I believe Abe Seus's channel is Spiritual and Cryptid Encounters. Forgive me, Abe. Let me. I'm gonna confirm
In
it
the
real
meantime,
quick.
Bettina's channel is Crypto Normal Encounters with Bettina Moss. If you go and look at Barton Nunley, he made a post today and named a bunch of channels. But anyways, folks, so we're all together. We're all friends. We care about one another. And this channel that's coming up, also an Impromptu Truth. He's got a good show. They got good shows. And this guy that I'm about to talk to, I also want to give a shout out to Within the Myths podcast with Gary Brand and who else? Ry Voss with
Lost Frequency.
Lost Frequency. And who else? What do we got? We got a bunch of friends that we need to give them shout outs. Check them out. They're all good people. They do good work. If I left somebody out,
Lyle.
Lyle Blackburn, go, man, good stuff. Barton Nunley, of course, I just said Barton's name. Barton Nunley. Inhumanoid Encounters with Barton Nunley on YouTube. Go check these guys out, folks. You won't be disappointed. They do good work. So let's get started here. My wife sent me something funny earlier. Just laughing about that. Let's see. We can get there. He is. Get him on the show here.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Sean. How you doing?
Pretty cool. Enjoying your show.
Yeah. Thank you. So I've been told lately that I'm not. It's not a good show. I've been told that I'm a poo-poo caca head. I don't know if that's the case or not, but
Everybody's going to be talking about anybody anytime you can go out in the public.
Yeah,
they'll
that's how-
talk something about you.
yeah, you got to get used to it, man. So Sean, this is Sean Graham. Do you want to introduce yourself? I've already introduced you, but you introduce yourself too.
Well, I'm Sean Graham. I used to be associated with Dark Waters for 5-6 years, something like that. Did a show over there called Chasing the Truth, and I stopped doing Chasing the Truth 4 months ago, something like that. Wound up having a heart attack and kind of had a quadruple bypass open heart surgery June 8th.
Gosh,
So
and you're not very old. How old are you, Sean? Tell us.
53.
53, and you had quadruple bypass surgery. Did it just hit you, or were there warning signs? Did you have issues?
There was
before
warning.
that?
Yeah, there was warning signs for a good year, and I just put it off as it's just gastric reflux or what have you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I had a series of heart attacks, no doubt about it. But June 7th, I wound up in the emergency room, and June 8th, I wound up having an open heart bypass. So yeah. But most of the people in chat should know me,
Yeah.
I would assume. But
Yeah. A lot of people do. So Sean, tell us about your show. Like, are you? Or first of all, I got to ask: are you planning on coming back? Or are you gonna take it easy for a while?
well, I'm definitely taking it easy for a while. Been writing a book. I'm like 600 pages deep into that right now.
Cool. You're doing a 600-page book.
Well, what I have been shown in my near-death experience that I will be have enough for 3 books, and I'll peel one off and publish that.
Oh, okay. So
I've only, after my heart attack, I've only written maybe 2 days worth since then. But I wrote solid for a whole year.
Man.
Every day.
Wow. So somebody just said, "Oh man, wolf competition." Well, yeah, that's right. Now that you've written 3 books coming out, I got to go write another one so I can get ahead of you. That's what I got to do. That's can't nobody get ahead of me. I'm the best. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You ain't first, you're last.
So Sean, let me ask you a question. And it's up to you. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Your show. Okay, what was it about predominantly? Like, what did
predominantly? It was whatever the flavor of the moment was. I talked about Dogman ad nauseum for a while, then ghosts, then shadow figures, then UFOs. It was just whatever caught my interest for that show, and then I did a live open lines format. Had people call in without any script or anything like that. Took calls. Some shows lasted 5 hours. Those wore me out, but loved it. Loved it for a while, but it grew old. Drama followed. I definitely do not like drama.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's unfortunate.
But,
it's a plague here in this community. Let me ask you a question though, Sean. When you were your show, how did you get into it? How did you get started? What made you say, "Hey, I want to go do a show about whatever"? Cryptids.
Well, I called in one night on Dark Waters. He did open lines, something or another. And I told him a ghost story from my childhood that, and then he just kept on asking me. And I said, "Nah, man, I retired, lost my left leg, and had a near-death experience." And then he got kind of interested in that and said, "Well, tell me about your near-death experience." And I told him some things at that time.
Yeah.
And I think I put him off like 3 times. The third time I was like, well, nothing's holding me back from doing it.
Yeah,
like,
and why not? I mean, so you just decided to do it, and then you jumped in and you did a good job. And I've seen a few of your episodes, your shows, and I'm glad you're back. I know that we were on a show together a couple times. I think we were in the same. I think we were on Truth's show together.
Yeah,
and then we
Truth
were
and
on
Bass show.
Yeah, and then I think we were on Vault's show together too, like a couple times. So, so we've been in the same, shows or whatever together. So, Sean, I have a question for you. You've seen Bigfoot, right?
No, I haven't seen Bigfoot. I've never seen it. I have close friends that have seen it.
Okay.
I've seen a couple of my close friends have seen Dogman, but I've never personally had a cryptid encounter. I've come across multiple ghosts before.
So so you haven't seen Bigfoot. Okay, so I was mistaken
No.
about that. I thought that somebody had told me you did. Well, goodbye, Sean. I see you. I guess you haven't seen Bigfoot. I'm just, it's like,
Sucks to suck.
sorry, folks. This guest has to leave all of a sudden. He has not seen Bigfoot. No, so I made a mistake on that one. But Sean, okay. And I wanted to save this one for last, but I guess I'm just really chomping at the bit. I don't think we've ever had anybody on this show. The people they have, but I don't think anybody has told us a near-death experience on the show for themselves. Could you do that?
Sure.
Okay.
I've had two near-death experiences. Which one?
It's up to you, Sean. I'd start with the first one if you're willing to talk about it.
First one is the 600-page.
Well, we don't want to get into the whole 600 pages of it, but I mean, if you can condense it, that's up to you. However you want to.
Well, let's see. 2015, November 2015, I had a car accident. Wound up losing my left leg to necrotizing fasciitis, the flesh-eating bug. I have above the knee amputation, and when I wound up in the ER, a doctor I'd known for a long while. His name is Thomas of all weird things. But he come to me and said, "You've got about a 30 to 40% chance of surviving the amputation." I'm like, well, you just gave me a death sentence. I was like, okay. And you would think I would panic, or I look back on it, I should have panicked, but it was just I got a wash of calm all over me right then and there. And I said, a sinner's prayer. I was done with it. And the doc said, "Hey, I name the person that's going to take over for you once, you have this surgery. Who's going to be your power of attorney?" And I named my sister. And I said, "Oh boy," after that, I could feel the drugs start rushing through me. Pain, medication, stuff, whatnot. But and I said, "Oh boy, I'm going to see what's on the other side of that curtain, that veil." And I fell asleep, and I fell into this abyss. It was totally without anything. It was a void upon a void. It was just completely dark. I tried to scream inside of it. Couldn't even, if I had a hand, I would have slapped myself. Try to get myself climatized to where I was. And I just floated in that void for, I couldn't tell you how long. And the first thing I noticed after, it could have been eons, it could have been half a second. Time there was just absolutely without meaning. And first thing I saw was this humongous eye open up, and it was a reptilian eye right in front of me.
Oh, wow.
And then the eye closed, and then for a long time, it was still void. I tried to yell, tried to talk out, couldn't hear myself, couldn't even feel myself breathe or make a noise or anything. It was just, my consciousness was there. That was it. I knew I was dead. Thought I was dead. Then, right after that, that same eye opened up, and then another eye not associated with this eye, another reptilian eye, it opened up. But, and then slowly closed, one right after another. And long story short, sooner I was surrounded like I was in the middle of this big globe with eyes all around me, 360 in this globe. And then suddenly I wound up hearing a voice in my head asking me, what are you doing here? You're here too early. And I thought, oh, okay, that's weird. Then I thought real quick, and I said, well, I don't know. I had an accident, and here I am. I'm dead. As far as I know, I'm dead. Looks like I'm dead. And then all of a sudden, it asked me a question about something I did in my childhood. And then I was back in my childhood. And, well, the first one was I was in high school, sitting on one of those old rickety chairs with the, the metal and wood and whatnot that you just couldn't sit still in one of those things. And I was like, oh, this is strange. And it asked me why I wrote in blue ink instead of black ink. And I was like, well, the detail was so great. I was like, well, I've heard of different things concerning, life reviews. And I was like, well, you know about it. And it was just, I said, just because I didn't have a black ink pen, I guess. And then, boom, I was out of that. And back into the void, surrounded again with these eyes. Opening and closing, and I would be transported back and forth from one memory to the next. And the last memory, which actually was the very first story that I wrote once I made my mind up to start writing about this, because for years I was asked, hey, you going to write about this thing? You going to write about this thing? And I always put it off. I was like, who want to read about this? So this was the very first story that I wrote about. I was walking as probably like a 4-year-old down a old railroad track in this old town called Dunbar, Virginia. It's a mining camp, more or less, in Southwest Virginia. And my aunt sent me down to this feed store that was right on the track, and it's about 100 yards, maybe, give or take, to pick up a sack of whatever she called and ordered. So I walked down that track, and it was hot that day, and when I was going through that memory, I could feel the gravel underneath my feet, feel the heat of the midday sun, the whole shebang. And I saw a little Coca-Cola pop bottle cap down at the side of the track, and I was like, well, that's cool. And I reached down, picked it up, and I could remember saying, yeah, I'd like to have a cold Coke right now. 4-year-old, who wouldn't? And all of a sudden I got snapped back, and one of those voices asked me, why'd you pick up that bottle cap? And I got ticked off. I cussed. I said, why in the world? This is supposed to be the afterlife. Why in the world will you, of all people, ask a 4-year-old about why you pick up a bottle cap off the side of a railroad track? And then as soon as I started cussing, I was like, God, why am I still here? As soon as I said the word God, why am I here? All the eyes closed, and I was back in the void, but off into the distance, I saw a set of eyes attached to a reptilian looking being. So I was like, well, I'm dead. What are they going to do to me? They can't kill me and make me even deader, so why not? So I, at that time, I had a corporeal body. I could see my hands and whatnot. And I moved toward this being, or whatever you want to call it. It looked like a lizard. I actually have a couple of sketches of it in a sketch pad somewhere. I can't remember where I put the thing, but anyway, I got near it, and there was this humongous opal that it was staring at. I mean, it was about the size of a cathedral door. If you've ever been to New York City, you saw one of the big cathedral doors
Never been there.
In the Catholic churches. Never been there?
Never
well,
been
a huge door. Okay. It's amazingly big, probably like 20 feet by 20 feet, stuff like that. So anyway, it was swirling white um, configuration, and it was just staring at it. And I was looking at this um, this being that looked like a reptilian, and it acted like it was kind of scared of me, and it backed away from the opal. And I looked at the opal and I looked at it and I was like, well, why are you so interested in this? And I reached out and touched the thing and it felt like warm paint, more or less. And I tried to pull my hand back, and either I fell into the opal or the opal come toward me and engulfed me. And at that time, it was like I wound up being in the middle of the loud place you could possibly be on Earth, being poked, prodded, every sense was alive. And all I could do was, get into a fetal position. And that lasted forever. And then it calmed down. And I would say I came to, but I came to be in another place. And it was brilliantly bright. And there was this entity in front of me. And it was this big, massive amount of energy that I looked at. And I said, okay, where am I? And this entity said, I'm an angel of the Lord. I'm here to help you remember. And not to help you, get climatized to where you are now. And then from that point forward, I can't tell you what happened first. It either all happened at the same time. I can't tell you or it just, I don't know. Time was just so compressed and so elongated. I met everything from angels to demons. Even went through hell while I was there. I wrote extensively about that. That took about 100 pages, give or take, of the hell experience. And that wasn't fun. While I was writing about the hell experience, I couldn't sleep. Every time I would fall asleep, I was back in hell.
Oh my God!
Even when I was writing, I had my laptop set up out on the back porch, and I was writing, and I was so exhausted, I drift off, and then as soon as I drift off, boom, back in hell.
What was, and I don't want to interrupt, but your flow.
No,
but
go ahead.
What was hell like?
Well, it started out. Well, how I got there was this angel, which I got curious about doorways that he showed me in heaven. And there was this one doorway that was, was unlike any other doorway there. And I asked about it, and I said, what's this doorway about? And he said, it's the doorway to hell. So you've asked about it, so let me show you what you have been withdrawn from.
Withdrawn from?
Mm-hmm. So he said this, you will not like this experience. And the moment that he touched me, he didn't push me into the door, but the door, like the opal thing, it kind of come toward me and engulfed me. And the next thing I knew, I was in hell. And the angel was standing next to me. And if you've ever seen the movie of the Pillar of Salt, with
No,
that formless, it sort of looks like a human. but
Never seen it.
never seen it. So imagine sort of like a dummy with no form. You can't really tell
Kind
if
of
it's
intangible.
yeah. It's not. You can just sit there or look at it and it looks human, but it doesn't have any form. You can't tell if it's got a face or whatever. There were millions of these forms all over the place, and they were just sort of like swaying in the wind, so to speak. And one, I looked around and it was dark, but I could still see these figures, and it was like row after row, and it was stacked on top of each other. But there was definitely a segregation between the rows. You know, one by one, side by side on the horizon, and then vertically they were stacked on top of each other, and just swaying back and forth. And the angel told me, reach out and touch one. And I touched 3. But there's one I won't tell. I can't. I didn't even write about that one. But the first one I touched, I was in front of. As soon as I touched this one form, I was in this apartment with this young woman screaming her head off at this little kid, and she was super mad at this kid. Got out on, for whatever reason, she got this kid out on the balcony and just cussing this little kid out, grabbed a hold of the kid and shoved him off the balcony. And as soon as she did that, she realized that she actually loved this little kid, and she leaped out to try to grab a hold of the kid, and she fell off the balcony. And then all of a sudden it restarted all over again. She was in the apartment arguing, and it was in this terrible loop. And every time she would see that, she would scream out, God, please no. And God wasn't there. God was not listening to her. And it was like each time that she did that, the pain that she felt for doing that act was compounded on each time this cycle reset itself. And then I let go of her and was shaking in front of this angel. And I said, what is she going through? She said, the angel said, going through her hell.
Wow.
She never valued anything beyond what was personal to her. No family, no child, nothing. Until that moment she threw that kid off the balcony, and she actually found out she loved something, and she threw that away. So,
And then
but
do you think this person when they died, that's like that's what happened? They just started replaying the most painful memory that ever happened to them over and over again.
Yeah, she was yelling for God, and God was not there. She was absent from God. God did not make His presence known whatsoever to any of them there. So she would scream, yeah, David. She just screaming for God, please help me, don't allow me to do this again, and it would reset.
Yeah.
Over and over and over, and it was not like it erased her memory. It was like one more time, and it was just endless. You know, that was I wrote about that, and I wrote in greater detail than what I just said.
Well, yeah, of course.
But,
I mean, this is and when this book comes out, I definitely want a copy of it.
Well, It's sitting out on a drive right now, out in the ether right now. So, actually, one of the things, one of my friends, she's probably in the chat right now. For whatever reason, something in the back of my head said, "You got to have some sort of a dead man switch. If something happens to you, how are you going to get this book out?" So I gave her access to this drive out on the net, or I thought I did. I hope I did anyway. I said, if something happens to me, I told her who would own this body of work that I did. But yeah, I think something in the back of my mind said, my health is not doing well. But yeah, I definitely did say, hey, I told her several times that, hey, I need to give you access to this drive. It's it's Google Drive, but anyway. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of creepy. I hadn't thought about that in a while. She's like, who and what? So, right there at the jump ahead of the whole thing. At the end of my first near-death experience, after the laborious writing 600 plus pages, and I haven't even scratched the surface on that one yet. I couldn't tell you how many pages it's going to be, but at the end of the near-death experience, I was before God, and God wanted me to go on, not come back. And I was arguing before God reasons to come back to here. And I argued over 8 souls. And I know I know 7 of the 8 souls. The 8th soul, I have no clue who it is. Kind of got a hint who it might be, but I've met and told each one of the 8 souls, or the 7 souls, that I come back for you. And every time that I approached each one of these people, they knew me pretty well. After I got acclimatized or got to know them, some of them I already knew. Some of them I had no idea who they were. When I realized, I've got to find these 8 people. Well, the first one was my brother, and he passed away shortly after I came back, about a year and a half. He died of cancer, but I had what I was arguing with God about was I've got to intervene some way, somehow in each one of these lives. Without me, they will have a hard time getting into heaven. And I was like, okay. So one soul, I just had to say a couple words to. And there's actually 2 souls I will never meet. But I know where they are and what their names are. I know where they are and who they are. They're 2 young children, actually. But and somebody asked me, why are you writing these books? Who are you writing them for? And I said, for these 2 kids. People are going to read these books afterwards. But I'm writing to tell them what I went through. So, but I'll never meet those 2 kids. But I told my friend that these books belong to them. I know their mother, and we're no longer on speaking terms. But anyway, I just said, if something happens to me, make sure that they get access to all these pages, and let them take care of it as they see fit. But the strangest thing happened once I finished arguing. And now I look back at it, and after I've written so much about it and relived all the, not all of it, I relived a bunch of the near-death experience in those pages. It wasn't me arguing with God to have me come back. I was convincing myself for reasons to come back. Now I look back at it. And have I finished what I needed to do? No. Actually, the second near-death experience, I actually asked God for me to stay. Will you let me stay this time? And he said, no, you haven't fulfilled your promise to me. And
May I ask,
It-
Sean?
sure.
So you feel like you had to, or I'm sorry, you believe that you were arguing with yourself for reasons to come back. And if this
Yeah.
question is too personal, then by all means we'll move forward. But did you feel like you? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, did you have reasons to not want to come back?
Let's see. On February the 11th of 2022, I wound up at a stalemate in my life, and everything that I thought I did everything I needed to do at that point. That was before I wrote the first thing, before I wrote anything. And there was a point in my life that I actually contemplated suicide, even though that I knew, this was after I was went through the near-death experience and everything. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Julie, and I asked her, said, everything is just like it's ash. Nothing means anything to me. And she said, well, have you talked to God about this? And for whatever reason, it never occurred to me to ask God about it. And she said, close everything, close the windows, get it real dark, and just pray to God. And I prayed to God for I don't know how long. And it was such a deep prayer. It was like I was back in that near-death experience before him. And I asked him, and I said, I think I've done everything that you wanted me to do in this life that I, argued for. And God said, what's going to happen to your voice? I said, man, I've been doing this podcast, and I've been on radio shows and other podcasts, and talked about you and talked about the near-death experience, yada, yada, yada. And God said, well, what's going to happen to your voice once you're dead? Once you come back home, it's going to fade. You're going to have to write about the gifts I give you. And it hit me that that's going to be a tall order. And I contemplated that. And I was like, I don't know if I can. What I remember of it. And at that time, I hadn't remembered a tenth of what had happened. And I thought, well, I'm here because I argued to God to gift me this time on earth again. So, well, this time is your time that you gave back to me. So I said, sure, I'll do it. And as soon as I did that, I was in this deep, dark depression. That as soon as I did that, it was like it was lifted off of me. The want, the need, the evil that was upon me just left me. And I had done a series of shows, impromptu, that I would have a call in show saying, hey, ask me any question about my near death experience and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. And I did that off the cuff and wound up doing that the night before, talking about my near death experience. I never really thought anything about it after that. And as soon as I woke up, I guess I woke up from this prayer. I had 3 emails. Well, that was sent during the time that I was in this prayer, all asking to help me do a book. And I was like, wow, okay. So I contacted the first guy that was on there, and I think his name was Mike. He's out of Kentucky. And I said, I have no clue what to do. I've never written anything of any kind of measure. Heck, I'm from the backwoods of Southwest Virginia. What the heck do I know about writing? So he just said, what do I need? And said, find you an app. You got a computer? Yeah, I got a computer. We'll start writing about that. Or start there. You got the equipment. Find you the appropriate apps, and you need something to back it up. And I found all the backups that I needed to do once I started writing. And I said, what do I write about? And he said, you talked about the train track last night. Why don't you start there? And I said, okay, well, thanks, Mike. I hung up with him, sat down in front of my MacBook, and within 15 minutes, found the appropriate app that I'm still using to this day to write with. And after that, I wrote, I think, 14 pages within a few hours of my first book, or not that first day. And it just fell into place. And I was like, holy cow. I look at it as, this was meant to be. I had no clue what to write, what not to write. And
the spirit just moves you.
Yeah, it just went in one direction forward. And I since I had that prayer with God every night without fail, I have a vivid, lucid dream of being back in the near-death experience every night, even last night. And strange because where I had that near-death experience with my open heart surgery, I can't remember waking up from it. It was like I woke up from a dream, and I was in a bed with my chest just been freshly opened. But it was like I woke up into another dream, and dream was here. Just the weirdest thing. So and it's so strange. Then how I perceive everything has changed so much since that my open heart. I went through another bout of depression, but I got through that, luckily. But nothing to the point where I wanted to, contemplating suicide. I haven't contemplated suicide since that February 11th of 2022. So, but
during your open heart surgery, what was this your second near-death experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I honestly, I had a feeling I would have another near-death experience, but I had no clue. I didn't even know if I would make it or not, considering, when I went in, my heart rate was in the 30s.
Oh, wow.
30s to 40s.
Wow.
Yeah. I was in complete block. The last ditch effort of how the heart's wired to keep your heart running. You could see the little, if you know anything about the QRS waves, there's a P wave that starts the whole cycle out. I had a bunch of P's, but my heart was just kicking along with that last ditch effort of keeping me there. So, but after quadruple bypass and waking up, the weird thing about the open heart, I was a respiratory therapist and I took care of open heart patients, and what I got away from took home from that was I don't want to have this open heart because these people are just in agony. And I can also tell you, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. The open heart surgery. Mm-hmm. As I don't know if it was divine intervention saying, "Hey, we don't want you to go through all that pain or whatever." But did I go through some pain? Yeah, I went through some pain, but not to the tune of what I saw others go through. That being said, I was on all kinds of nice drugs for a little bit. So.
Well, that does help.
Yeah, it does help. But yeah.
You said you had. Go ahead, Sean.
One of the things that I noticed after the open heart, especially in the hospital, I've seen it since. Actually, I saw it the same thing that I'm about ready to explain to you Thursday. So anyway, I was transported from one room to the next, and I was going from a higher unit to a lower level unit to a lower level unit within this hospital system, and I would look out in the hallway or look in my room, and I could see the walls and the paint and whatnot, and all of a sudden these black vines would start growing all over the place. And I was like, what in the world is that? I would close my eyes and kind of shake it off, and I look. I was like, oh, well, they're not going away. And then after about 10, 15 minutes of that, they would go away. It would disappear. I have seen it since. I don't see it in my house. Thank God. But I associate seeing those vines growing on walls with places that have had a lot of negative experiences. A lot of evil happening in that. And I know for a fact, every hospital has had a lot of negative energy being brought into it just by the sheer fact of how you get into hospitals.
Yeah, no one goes
that kind
there
of
for
thing.
a good
So
time.
they're not going. I wasn't there for a good time, but they're that's what I associate with, and I probably need to pray about that a little bit. I haven't really asked anything about that in prayer. It hadn't been revealed to me other than what little bit I shared with you. But that's I jumped through so much. But what do you guys want to ask now that I've given you a little tidbit?
Actually, I do have a question that I've been holding. So going back to your first near-death experience, when you said that these beings were asking you about different points in time throughout your childhood, and you kind of transported to those different points in time, and they just kind of asked you like, hey, why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
When you were a child, did you ever have experiences where you had these moments that came seemingly out of nowhere, where you felt like you were someone else, where you would look down, whatever you were doing, you would stop and you would look down at your body, and it would seem kind of alien to you, like foreign to you, because
No, I had 2 out of body experiences when I was a kid, if that's what you're asking.
Well, the reason I'm
You
asking is
know,
because I would get these kind of experiences all the time where it's very hard to articulate, but I'm gonna do my best. It was like, like I would be playing, just being a kid, doing what kids do, and then I would stop, and then I would have to look down, and I would look at my hands, and I would get these thoughts like I can't believe I'm me. Who is this? I'm not. This is not who I am. And then it would pass, and I would go back to being a kid. But I remember those moments very vividly, and I just wonder if those moments were actually, I don't know. It sounds kind of crazy, but I'm just postulating. Like I wonder if those moments were actually those points in time where like these beings transport you back to your childhood, and you relive them, but from your adult perspective. I don't know.
I
That's
mean,
why I want to know if you could relate to those childhood moments.
I kind of can. I mean, I've don't know exactly what you mean, but I've definitely had moments where this very uncomfortable feeling has come over me, and like it kind of feels like a quick bout of deja vu, but like just from the body. Like you don't remember anything or you don't see anything. It's just your body feels very uncomfortable real quick, and it's just like that's what I can remember at least. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same as what you're speaking about, but when you say that, that's just what it reminds me of.
But
And
I did also
hmm.
have one out of body experience as a child, and it was when I was still in diapers, and it was so weird. And I know this wasn't just a dream, but I was watching my mother change me in the first house I remember living in. Like I was on the bed and she was changing my diaper, and I was watching from the bedroom doorway, but my perspective wasn't that perspective. It wasn't that of a child. I was like 6 feet off the ground just watching this happen, and I was watching her change my
Hmm.
diaper. And I mean, what were your childhood out of body experiences like?
One was I was watching myself as a toddler play in this old house my grandparents owned or lived in um, when I was a toddler. And I was playing with little plastic cowboys and Indian figurines on the floor. And my grandfather walks in, and, he was this diehard, he was a little kid, stuffed into a grandpa's body kind of fella. So he jumps in the floor, starts playing cowboys and Indians with me with these little figurines, and I was watching it from a third person point of view, and I never really realized I was watching it. It was just like I saw my little body there. Now I look back at it, yeah, that was out of body experience for me. I've had a ton of out of body experiences since last year in my dreams. Uh, how I figure out that I'm in a dream is right now it's almost automatic that as soon as I wake up in a dream, I know I'm in a dream. But I have two legs in my dream. Is how it started out with, and then all of it becomes fluid, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in a dream. But I have sat in my wheelchair watching myself sleep in my dreams.
Oh,
And
go ahead.
yeah, and I've had there was one for about 2 weeks. I'd wake up in my bed in the dream, and the only thing that I could figure out that was I had two legs in a dream. Like, oh, okay, wow, okay, I'm still here, and 24/7. As soon as I fall asleep, I'd wake up in the dream, being in the daylight in the dream. And the very first day I did that, I woke up and I went through the entire day in my dream, functioning like, hey, this is the end of the day. Like, wow, that was a short sleep. And I was out on my back porch writing in my dream about my near death experience. And then the angel I was telling you guys about earlier in the story sat across the table on my back porch from me. I was like, that's strange. Why are you here during the daylight while I'm awake? And the angel said, look at your legs. I looked down. I was like, I'll be a son of a gun. I'm in a dream. He smiled, and I have seen him since then sitting across from me. It's always when I wake up in these dreams, and not every one of them, the sun setting in the dream, and I wake up with the sun risen here and back and forth. It's like I don't get any spiritual rest. I'm always at it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah, I mean,
Sort of. But, that first encounter with this angel sitting on my back porch across from me, the sun was setting in the dream. And I have had so many encounters with angels, demons. The stranger the dream. I'll wake up and say, there was no way in the world that this could be even true. I was still hot and heavy at doing my show and doing live streams and the open lines format and stuff. And I was telling about this strange dream I had of being in the future. And I was in this cave, and there was this war going on outside, and the sky was red. And I was early that morning, somebody called me and said, hey, I need to tell you about this dream that I had, and I just got to tell you about it. Well, it was the same dream I had, but from her point of view. So I, kind of elaborated on that, and I had a guest that night. And I was telling this story with her on the air, and she told the same story from her point of view. So I had two people tell me the same dream from their point of view within, less than 12 hours of me waking up from this thing. And the stranger the dream, that I wake up and say, there's no way that's it. It's like God says, here, hold this. Let me show you that this was real. I've had demons kind of trying to get my confidence or respect or whatever, and they tell me like half truths or a full truth or whatever while they're talking to me. And they told me something about someone that I know very well, and I was like, there ain't no way, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you about that. Sure enough, what that demon told me was true. I was like, holy crap. Really? Seriously? And I'm not going to say who it was or what it was, but it shocked me to my core. And I was like, holy cow. Every time I wake up from these strange dreams, I just say, it's just a dream. Don't, shake it off. It was real kind of a dream. That sometimes I have a hard time wondering, did that actually happen or didn't it happen?
Yeah, it's hard to discern what's real and what's
Yeah.
not. Apocalyptic dreams in particular are actually very common. And I almost wonder, like, what if these dreams are not actually dreams, but are like very, very ancient memories of something that actually happened that's ingrained in the human, like deep within human DNA. And because there are theories that civilization has risen and fallen many times, and I don't know, it's just another one of those things that I kind of chew on mentally.
I do believe the
Like
earth
a
is a
generational memory.
What were you saying, Sean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I do believe the earth is a lot older than what humans think that we are.
Okay, Sean, now I'm going to have to go and correct you with that. That's of the devil.
That is not in the King James
version of the Schofield Bible. You were completely wrong, sir.
Repent.
That is why you were seeing what you did.
Book of Giants.
The
not
Book of Giants. That's actually a book. Let me ask you a question though, Sean. Like, this was your first. You had the first out of body experience. The second one, did it mirror the first one?
When I was a kid, you referring to the childhood memory?
Was it like both near death experiences you've had? Like, did they mirror one another?
The near ask that question one more time.
you've had one when you had the car wreck, right?
Yeah, well, it was when I went under the knife to have my leg removed.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And I was in a coma for I think 11 days, something like that. The near-death experience from that one to this one, they didn't
match up.
They matched up. Yeah, there wasn't it was a continuance of what I experienced, and I knew exactly where I was. It did not start the same way. The second one didn't start the same way the first one started.
Oh, so it was like you just continued where you left off.
Because I'm curious about this because
not necessarily it was sort of like it took what I was having, the vivid lucid dreams, and stuffed it in a compact shell and said, "Oh, here, just put that aside and let me show you something else." It was like I could see this point of light out from me when I woke up into a void. If you could associate, was that like the first one?
Yeah, basically, sure. I was wondering what the differences were, I guess, because I have not really had a lot of experience with people. Lots of people have had near-death experiences, and I've heard them tell them a lot, but I have not heard too many people have two. Now, my mother did. My mother had two. She died twice before she died in 2021 and was passed away. She had two near-death experiences. The first one was unpleasant. The second one wasn't so unpleasant because she changed her life. She thought she was okay, but she really wasn't, and I knew she wasn't because she was a very unhappy person and also a conflicted person. I think that it really opened her eyes, to what I lament that I didn't record with her, but she was in such bad health, for the.
Oh yeah.
I would say probably the whole time we've had the show, right, Tony? She was in bad health.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I know her, she's always been. I would say kind of feeble. I mean, she was always very pure and like strong. You could tell she was very strong at heart, but the body you could tell was a little more feeble. But she never let it stop her. I mean, she would get up in that kitchen, cook the best fideo you've ever had.
Yeah, carne asada and everything else. But she had always told me, she would always say, "Mijo, there's more out there than this. You got to remember that." And I know that. I mean, but I would lose sight of it sometimes because I would get so driven by, success and trying to survive. And then it was, she told me, one of the things she told me before she died, she said, "It's overkill." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's just, that was her word straight out to me. We were sitting there in her kitchen while she was cooking. And I remember I wouldn't say it was right before she died. It was right before I met Nellie. And she's like, "What are you doing? You're working yourself to death for what?" She's like, "What are you going to do? You can take it with you?" And I'm like, "No, I want to be able to take care of you." She's like, "You take care of me." She's like, you take care of everybody, And
I think that was the lesson that, she didn't want you to have to experience, because since she experienced it herself, because when you were very young, both your parents worked so much and so hard.
Yeah.
So then I think growing up, and I think I can relate to that because my mom had kind of a similar experience where, she had to raise 4 kids by herself. So she was very much just always working. And then now that we're all a little older, she looks back at it and like, I wish I would have had more time to spend time with you, because now that I do have time to spend time with you, you guys don't really have as much time to spend time with me.
Yeah. Cats in the cradle thing, kind of. Yeah. And it's just like you kind of you lose sight of it. And so when she had that conversation with me, believe it or not, it was my nephew Zane who was with me on that trip. We went to go see my mom, and that's my brother's son. And he was just like, he gave me a little talk, and it was Interesting. I mean, he's young guy in his early 20s, I guess, at that time. What is Zane? What is he now? 27? No, I mean,
He's
28.
Yeah, he's like 2 years older than me.
Yeah, so he's 28.
27, 28.
27, yeah. And then he, at that time, that would have been like maybe right before I met Nelly. So it would have been, what is that, 6 years? So he would have been like 22 or something. And we went, my mom had fallen asleep. And me and Zane went to go eat at this all-night restaurant back when you could go there before, the whatever came and changed everything. The
vid.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. But, yeah, it changed everything. So, but anyway, we went and we ate at this diner. And he, he's a young guy, but you can learn something from anybody. And he gave me some advice that day, and I'll never forget it. He says, you and your mother are both, like, you're so stressed out and you're always not in good health. And I wasn't at that time. And he said, and then your mom's, he goes, you need to make a point to just see your mother more often, And I didn't, not at that time. I just had so much to do. And every time I would get to a certain level, I would just try to get to another level. And it was like building my company, building my business, trying to grow my business, and then And then I finally, when Nellie helped settle that down, when she came, it was like she finally said, okay, there has
Take
to
a break.
Take a break. You can't just do this, because this is exactly what you said your parents did. And then I nearly died. I ended up being in the hospital for almost 7 days. And it was touch and go at one point. That was in 2018. And then I just had to, lose 100 pounds and get myself back together and try to, And I had some really weird dreams too. Not in that way. I was stabbed years ago when I was a young guy, and I'm pretty sure I came out of my body. And I remember talking to this guy who was an African-American guy, and when I came out of the coma, I was in a coma for a few days. And when I came out of it, they said that I asked about him, and they said, oh, he passed away on the day you came in. And I'm like, what? Because I had this, I sat up on the bed and I talked to this guy. So I don't know. And other than that, though, I don't really remember. I remember bits and pieces of walking around the hospital. And I asked them if I had been out walking around because I was confused. And of course, Scorpion and Willie were there when I woke up. And they were like, no, you were just making a lot of noise. Like you would come out of it and make noise, but you wouldn't open your eyes. And then you would go back into it and nobody could wake you up. You were incoherent. And so I never left my bed, but I had these images, Sean, of moving around the hospital. So that's weird. I don't think it was near death. I don't know. Would that be a near death experience? I don't think so. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know.
I think that might be kind of more of an out of body experience.
Out of body,
but in a near death state.
I was hovering between life and death. I had lost 4 pints of blood. I mean, that's almost dead, or 3.5, whatever. But they were, they told me, they're like, well, you're lucky to be alive, And in the modern medical, they were just like, well, the doctor throws the chart, get out of here, you're done, good. You're okay. You're awake now. See ya.
Next.
Yeah. And you're like, I just woke up. Yes. And people need to be a big boy and get up and leave. Okay?
Walk it off, champ.
You've been stabbed. Okay. It's a little stabby there. And
don't worry.
Time to go.
We put some super glue on it. You'll live.
That's all they had to do. They just glued me up. But Sean, whenever you had your heart attack recently, like that it just kind of like continued what had happened to you before?
What the last heart attack?
Yeah, this last heart attack. Did it just continue like that with the dreams and the weird, like you were out of?
Yeah, it never stopped. There has been days, or not days, a couple days that I can recall waking up and go, "Well, I didn't have a dream. That's strange." And then something will happen, and then snap. The entire dream just kind of pops right in front of my face and like, oh, there it is. But yeah, the dream itself, every time I close my eyes, how it's changed since the near death, the second one, is when I fall asleep, it feels like I'm falling into water. And then I wake up in wherever God wants me to be. So, but That's the only difference between what I have noticed how I fall asleep. I don't know if it's the amount of. I can honestly tell you, I'm on 17 different medications right now because of the crap life.
17?
Yeah, 17.
Oh my gosh, dude! How does your liver? I mean, is it? I'm not making a joke.
I see so many specialists right now. It's ridiculous. It's I've had scan after scan, MRIs, CTs, blood drawn so much. It was like, holy cow, pick arm.
Wow.
But yeah. I look at every morning. I take 16 pills in the morning. As soon as I wake up, take 16 pills, and I look at it that this is my admission back here. This is my toll payment to be back here with those 16 pills. Now you can look at it. Did I have the genetic dice rolled not in my favor on both sides of my family? Yep, sure have. My father's side of the family, had all kinds of cardiac disease. My uncle died of cardiac problems. My dad died of cardiac problems. My grandfather died of cardiac problems. My mother has cardiac issues. So, yeah, I look at it from that perspective. But, that last year, I think I grew closer to God before the final heart attack that put me in the hospital. I grew closer to God than I had been in a long time. So I thank God for the experience. Was it a fun experience? No, it wasn't. quite literally, it was not fun. Yeah. So, if anybody's ever watched or listened to my show, I open my show with a prayer and close it with a prayer.
Yeah.
And I still, I had a prayer list of people that reached out to me. Yeah, I'd like for you to pray over me, or I will pray over that final list that's on my website or on the YouTube site there. I still pray over that every day. I pray multiple times a day. I prayed right before I got on the air with you guys. Yeah, this whole entire thing has brought me so close, not so close. I will never be as close to God as I want to be.
No, none of us.
I'll always strive. I'll keep striving. My only fear is I will do something to mess up being back with God again. That's my only fear. I don't fear anything. I fear for my family. I fear for friends. But how I meet my end, I have no fear whatsoever of it.
That's got to be comforting right there. I mean, you to have that knowledge, I envy that, because you have already seen the other side and you know what you have to do, what's expected. So anybody who's had, some people, I've had this horrific near-death experience, and I tell them, I was like, yeah, but you're back, and you know that 100% what you need to do. I mean,
yeah, I think that none of us. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, before I had any of these near-death experiences that I, touched, as a respiratory therapist, I saw two people that had near-death experiences. One was apparently he was in hell. Did a entire code on this guy, and actually, the code was called. He was pronounced dead. I had removed the endotracheal tubes, and he, prepped him for any kind of visitation for family to come into the room after the pronouncement of death. And I walked outside to the curtains pulled and started doing my charting for code, what I did in code, more or less. Then all of a sudden, I hear this shriek. Oh my God, I'm burning up, oh my God, I'm burning up. And I turned around, and this nurse and I grabbed a hold of the curtain, ripped this curtain open, and this guy that we just pronounced dead had this terrible look on his face, looking at me, setting up, and then as soon as he said the third time that he's burning up, he slumps over the left-hand rail. And we were like, well, what do we do? Well, we got to check for a pulse. Pull and push him back in the bed, and here comes the doctor. Come in and said, "What's all this commotion?" So this was the guy that was just yelling. So we coded him again. He made it. We put him on a ventilator. After that, I did not see him coherent awake until the next day. He had been extubated and was breathing fine on his own. And I went in to do EKG on him, a heart tracing. I introduced myself to him, thinking, heck, he wouldn't know anything about me. And he looked at me like he knew me. And he just looked like he was just contemplating life all over again. What was he doing? I did not talk to him personally during that EKG or anything. I didn't say, hey, I was there last night to, who the heck will want to be reminded, hey, I saw you yelling, you're burning up. But he apparently talked to other nurses and other staff that he was in hell and the flames of hell was licking up his legs. Yeah. I don't know what happened to that fella. I used to remember his name. Luckily, I don't. But
the people you saw in hell, were they burning?
There were flames. I would assume they were burning.
Yeah.
My own personal, there's another caveat that I have not even touched on. I spent some time in hell personally.
Mm.
So that was during the first near-death experience, and I can quite honestly tell you there was a lot of flames and there was a lot of torment going on in there.
Mm.
That was one of the reasons that I got sleep during that time of I call it my hell, half a month of hell that I went through. There was this demon there that would not let me wake up.
Mm.
I could usually I could wake myself up out of one of these dreams, and it wouldn't let me wake up.
Now, I've had people say that when they've gone to hell, and I've gotten NDEs, that there's different types of things going on. One of them is this black abyss type place where you described, and they'll be tormented and punished and hurt by these entities, these demons or whatever, devils. And then there's another one where they just go to a fiery torment and they're there and they're trapped, but there's no demons punishing them or anything or hurting them. And so I've heard it said that there are two different places. There's the abyss, which is ruled and controlled by devils. And then there's hell, which is actually, there is no devils because the devils that are there they're burning too. Now, what do you think of that? Like, what is the difference to you? Like, in your opinion, is there a difference, or what are we dealing with?
From my perspective, I think each individual goes through their own hell.
Yeah.
Is there like a big, massive, heaping helping of a hell gate being thrown on everyone that's there? On the masses, sure, I would say absolutely. But the hell that I went through had the flames, had the torment. I had both my legs in this hell part, and my left leg, where it had a necrotizing fasciitis, was festering and bleeding, and it was everything up and then some on top of that. But the pain and the discomfort and just the sheer agony wasn't anything compared to what was happening in front of me. In front of me was this old tree, and hanging from that tree was I had seen everyone that I ever loved hanging from that tree. And I watched a version of me hang those people that I loved. And that killed me more than all the pain, the physical pain that I went through. It was just like it was ripping the insides of me out, my very being out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that was just.
that has to be
I've written so much about that little bit, and I've stopped. There's a whole lot of I've written about particular people that were hanging from that tree, and I just stopped and I can't go on with this. I can't keep writing about this. And so
It has to be one of the deepest pains.
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
horrible. I want to say something really quickly. Just 1 second. Pause for a second. Barton's taking off. Barton, thank you for that post you made today on Facebook. If anybody could go to Barton's, I'm sure it's in Humanoids with Barton Ln. He posted it in the Paranormal Roundtable group. He also posted it on his personal page, and I appreciate that, Barton.
You're a very dear friend, and you're a man who's not afraid to stand to be counted.
I just think that what's going on, we're not going to bring it onto the show, but Barton, thank you for standing up and doing that. It meant a lot to me. And I did have a talk today with War Criminal 7. I think he's still in the chat. That's his handle or whatever. Thank you for those words today. We talked today, and it was good to talk to you. I had a talk with Nick Valenti today too. There's been a lot of outpouring of support and people being kind and generous and whatever. And I know some people got to leave. Thank you, Barton, for being one of my best friends, if not my best friend in this community. I got a lot of really good, close friends, and today was a blessing. I had multiple people reach out to me and offer their support. Some people who I thought had kind of forgotten about me, and they didn't. It was nice. But yeah. But thank you. And so, Sean, I have a question for you before we run here. Are you having any plans on coming back and doing or are you just going to keep writing?
I'll just have to pray about it. Right now, I don't have any plans. I wasn't planning on going to any shows or anything, and then you asked me to come on the show, and I was like, well, felt right, and I said, sure, why not? I'll go on the show.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I had no plans whatsoever to be a guest on any show whatsoever. Truth and Bass, Impromptu Truth. I think they've asked me to, hey, come back on the show, and I was like, sure. That was one of the shows that I loved to be a part of because they, just a great bunch of guys.
Bass. They're
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Truth
awesome.
and Bass are awesome guys. I mean, we're
Yeah.
gonna do some
Yeah,
work
good
with them
friends, good
coming up
friends.
soon too. We're all family here. We're all in this together, and that's that what I want to see in this community. People say things and they do things or whatever, but at the end of the day, I wish that we could all get along and accept each other's differences. But like I said, at the end of the day, that is saying, I think it's just one of those things where you can wish and you can hope and you can pray, but it's just at the end of the day, I don't know what are the answers. I hope that we can all mend broken fences and whatever. But sometimes there's just certain things you don't come back from with certain people, and I hope that we can all I'm just really I'm blessed. I'm blessed for the people that are in my life, in my everyday life. I'm blessed for the people that listen to the show and support us, and I'm blessed in the friends that I got in this field. Sean, I consider you one, and I'm glad that you came on tonight. Now, you said you end your shows with a prayer. Would you like to pray right now?
Sure, that's
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to say it?
Sure, I'll say it. Absolutely.
All right, absolutely.
Okay. Father God, we come before you in Jesus Christ's name to give thanks, to praise you, to honor you, to just say you are awesome God. Thank you for the day. Thank you for the friends that are among us. Thank you for our family and our friends and those that are hurting body, mind, and spirit, Father God. Please send your angels of mercy and support and healing to those folks as your holy will sees fit. Thanks for Joshua. Thanks for all the other folks that's in the chat, whoever they may be. Touch their hearts as you only know how to. Thank you for this day, Father God. Bless each and every one of us. Lead us in your holy will. Help us to recognize your will and help us follow that will. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
So we're going to let you run, Sean. It was good talking to you, and keep me posted. And definitely when this book comes out, however you want to break it down or whatever, definitely want to get a copy of it. And when you come back and you decide to do what you're doing, I think you have a lot to say. I think it's very important that you do. If you feel up to it at some point, I hope you come back. Folks, everybody keep him in your prayers. We have a
Definitely.
lot of friends and family, and here at BRT, we are family. And so, yeah, it just today made a lot of, there was some bad. There was some
Yeah.
bad. I mean, some things happened today, and but, you know, it's good. You know, there's still goodness out there. A lot of people, good people. Sean, you're one of them. Thank you for coming on, my brother.
Well,
If
thank
I
you
can-
for inviting me.
If I can just offer you one last thought, Sean, that I feel compared to share with you, and hope.
Compelled.
What did I say?
You say compared.
You say
Oh,
compared.
I'm sorry. That I feel compelled to share with you, in hopes that it might help you feel a little bit better about what you said earlier about how there is a fear that you have about falling out of favor with the Lord. Um, the scripture says that there is none righteous under the sun, save Jesus Christ,
Nope.
and none of us will ever achieve righteousness, and we will all fall short of the glory of God. So we can never truly call ourselves righteous people. We can never truly call ourselves good people. But I think that the striving for righteousness is in and of itself a righteous act. And no matter how many times we fall from the path, no matter how many times we stray from the straight and narrow path, the beauty of that path is that it's always there for us to follow, and we can always get back on it. So it's in that returning to the path after we stumble, that in and of itself is a righteous act, and I think that is what ultimately counts for something.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
absolutely. So hopefully we'll be make it to the end and meet on the other side.
That's right. Sean, stay in touch. Okay.
No problem, man. Likewise.
Yeah. It was good talking to you, brother. You take care of yourself.
All right.
All right.
God bless y'all.
Yeah,
God bless you.
So that was Sean Graham, folks, and me and Sean been trying to do a show for a while together, and so yeah, there's an outpouring to pray for Sean and know that help him. Somebody said something to me the other day in a group, and I don't want to say. but I just want to give you my stance on this. And they said, you know, and this person is a real person. I don't think they were a troll or a bot. I think that I looked at his Facebook profile, and he said something very negative. He said, your stance and he said it like this: you're forcing your religion on people, which I'm not a religious person. I am a follower of Christ. He says, is going to turn people away, and you'll never achieve the numbers you could if you would stop with that. So think about that for a second. I'm never going to achieve the numbers that I could because of that.
What good should it profit a man to inherit the whole world should
Yeah.
he lose his soul?
Well, so if that's what you're looking for is the numbers and you're worried about the whatever you're doing, and I said something back to this. I shouldn't have even. It's something told me does not even engage this person. Just because there's nothing you can do. You're not going to be able to convince this person. So what I said to them, I said, well, you know, it's not about that for me. I'm not doing this for fame or money or whatever. I've already done what I need to do. And some other person got on there, and I couldn't tell whether they were defending me or if they were like, well, he doesn't need it or whatever. He's a rich kid. That's not true. And I didn't know if they were, and they put a laughy face there, and they were like, and then they were like, seriously, he doesn't need the money. And I was like, okay, I'm not a rich kid. I'm not. You know, I'm just a person, and I'm not. I don't look at, you know, wealth in the way of like the world's, you know, what they get for wealth. And just to clarify, when I was born, I was very poor. I was born very poor, and I remember going back to school one year. It's about that time when you start going into middle school, and my mom and dad, they were going through a very bad divorce. And my mother, like I said, before she died, she had a very serious mean streak on her, and my dad, very, I wouldn't call him like a narcissist, but I would say he did not care about certain things, and he cares about money a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of he's, you know, like to me, his God is Mammon, which is the God of wealth and money. And I told him one day in a bad shouting match, we got into it, and I screamed at him, and I said, your God is money. You care more about money than you do us. You care more about money than you do me. And you always cared more about money than you did my mom. And he said, I could say the same thing about her. And I was like, and you'd be right. And so if anything that it taught me that I've learned in this life is that money, it really means nothing. You can't take it with you. And the only reason you should have it is to take care of yourself and to help those around you. When the Bible says that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, which actually that means rope through the eye of a needle, which is something that Ron Moorhead talked about at our conference. He said that. Ron Moorhead said that. In the true Hebrew translation, it is actually a camel is a rope. It's very similar, the translation.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, I was like, that's awesome. It was really cool to be at the conference and be around these people that were understanding me. You know, and all the people that were there were listening and they understood. And it's true. Money is not important. But then someone will make a statement like, oh, that's because you have it or you've always had it. No, I didn't always have it, and I didn't have it. When I started my business, I asked my dad for a small loan. It wasn't a big amount of money. I'm pretty sure my stepmom vetoed it. She was always against him helping me in any way. I don't totally blame her, but because, I mean, you know, but it wasn't just him. I mean, he could have, you know, overrode that and said, I'm going to help him. He's my son. Instead, he just let me twist. And it was always that way. And then my mother passed away, and I knew she was in a better place. And it hit me one day. I was driving, and I just, you know how you're driving, it seems like things just kind of come to you. And we were on a long trip, and I didn't say anything to anybody. It was just thought that came into my head. And I remember going back to school. I got picked on and beat up in middle school. I was in a new school, and they made fun of my shoes. I had to wear the same shoes and the same clothes. And it wasn't because my parents were poor at that time. It was because my mother was using me to punish my dad. And my dad to me, seems like he could care less. And that she was just so caught up in her anger and her rage and her hate for him that if she could just get a little bit of annoyance and pain out of him, she would maximize it with me. And she took off. She went on a trip to Chicago. And I'm going to share with you a very painful memory that hit me. When she left to go to Chicago, I was a 13-year-old. And I come home, and my mom's gone. I didn't know where she was at. And so I went over to Anthony's mother's house, so she lived down the street. Nobody was there at that time. She was at work. She had a job, like after school, whatever. It was very hard. Your dad showed up, and he let me in. And I tried to get a hold of my mother. We didn't have cell phones back then. She had taken off to Chicago and didn't tell me anything. And so I called my dad. So I waited for 2 days over the weekend. And when I left Anthony's mother's house, because they had to go do something. I was like out of town or something, and they were waiting. I was waiting for my dad to pick me up. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I didn't eat. So, who's now one of my best friends, her name is Heather. She's one of my best friends in the world. She's a chiropractor. I broke into her grandparents' house. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. Now, people come home and you're in their house. And they could have put me in jail, breaking and entering. And I told them what was going on. I said, I'm sorry, broke into your house. And I was eating food. I held a grudge against my mother for years for that. It was one of the most painful things that I ever went through. And I got locked up a few times as a kid. I got in trouble. I did kind of stupid things, you know. And I don't care if you think you want to make fun of me. I'm sure I'm going to get trolled for this. I'm probably going to get made fun of, and people probably. And that's fine. Go ahead, make fun of me, troll me, whatever. But when my mother, before she died, that thought didn't even cross my mind. It was like I didn't care. And I knew that she was sorry for everything that she had done. And I forgave my mother. And I forgave my dad. I still have a lot of anger towards him. But the hardest thing we're going to do in this life is to forgive. The hardest thing that we will ever do in this world is to forgive. But if you carry that over into the afterlife, one of the things that I've heard over and over again from people who've had near-death experiences is that they tell them when they're in hell and they're allowed to come back that they don't forgive. They don't let go. And when people do things to you and they hurt you, those closest to you, you have to try to let go. It is the hardest thing you can do. Now, there are exceptions. There are people who are absolute sociopaths. You cannot communicate with them. You can't stop them. There's nothing you can do. And to me, I believe, thank you, Tony, that they're born beyond grace. Now, that's my opinion. I think that they're born that way because, you know, there's a reason for it, and I'm not going to get into it. But if you're listening and you're out there don't hold on to that. Just forgive. Do your best to forgive. Like I said, there are people, and that's not your problem. What you got to focus on is yourself. I held on to that grudge against my mother for a long time, and that wasn't the only thing that she had done. But when she had her near-death experience, she told me, Mijo, I felt every bit of your pain. She felt it. She knew what she had done. She's like, I was on a trip having a good time, and I left my son. Not only are you a teenager, but you're being made fun of. My mother had custody of me, and my dad was paying child support, which was excessive in his opinion, and his wife never let him forget that. And she didn't want to allow him to help me. And my mother was not doing what she was supposed to do for me. So yeah, I went to school with crappy clothes and crappy shoes, and I looked embarrassing, and people made fun of me. I mean, I bathed, I took care of myself, I always was a clean person. But when you have 3 shirts and 2 pairs of pants, it gets hard. And so washing clothes all the time, it's not always, and so I got tough. Because when you can fight, people don't mess with you, right? They leave you alone. And then they pretend like they like you, even though they probably don't. So that's how I ended up where I was at. And I always blame my mother and my father. But I forgive them because that's what you have to do. Because if you don't forgive, you will end up in a place. I don't care whether you believe it or not. You don't have to believe it. And then one of these things that these tough guys always say is, I'm not scared. I've seen a lot of scared or not scared guys get hurt regardless. You don't have to be afraid to get hurt. People get hurt all the time through whatever. It doesn't matter how brave you are. And one thing I can tell you is if you aren't afraid, I don't care if you're afraid or you're not afraid because you're too ignorant or you don't understand. I'm not addressing any particular person. I'm telling you as a whole, the whole audience, if you're listening, and you heard what Sean said, if you go into that afterlife with grudges, with hate, with anger, it's going to stay with you, and you will burn for that. The Zoroastrians, who are the predecessors of the Christians, they believe that you burn as long as it takes to get that off of you. Now, like I said, there are people who you can't reason with them, you can't deal with them, there's nothing you can do with them. You can pray for them until you're blue in the face, and it's not going to change a thing. But you don't stop praying, because that's on them, not on you. I'm not here to give you a Bible sermon, and I apologize for crying and getting upset and emotional. Those are painful memories, but I felt like it needed to be said. And I'm not doing that because I want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want pity. I don't want anybody's sympathies or whatever. That's fine. It's emotions that come up in me. This is what I did for myself. You choose to do what you need to do. But get your heart right with God through Christ. I believe that's the way. And then you can move forward in your life. Now, the nature of reality is not the way most people think it is. It's not the way that people like to portray it in the TV and the movies and all that. No. And just do what you have to do. Take care of people you have to take care of. There are people who never did that, and they're not going to get another chance. And then there are those who may get another chance. But when somebody says that, I'm a rich kid, that's a lie. That is not true. I was never a rich kid. I was a latchkey kid, and when my parents were, they finally made it, I didn't even get to reap the benefits of that. And it's pretty messed up. So I had to make it myself. But I just pushed too hard, trying to make it. You go back to your hometown and everybody's like, oh, you're successful, you're this, you're that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What does it matter what they think? I mean, these are some of the same people that made fun of me, that picked on me. I see them. I don't hate them. I'm not going to lie to you. There's times when I see people and I remember what they did. I remember how they mocked me. They mocked and made fun of my shoes, and now I see them and I call them brother or sister, and I just say, hey, we're all in this together. People make mistakes. They say things that aren't correct. They're mean. But you know what? People can change. Not everyone, but most people are capable of changing. You can't hold grudges. But like I said, there are some people, there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face. You can try everything you can, and they're born that way. I'm sorry to tell you. But there are a lot of people, though, that end up being misled by those kinds of people because, unfortunately, those kind of people know how to play upon altruism and people's emotions and people that have emotions and actually care. Yeah, Matt, yep, the kids are mean. They are. I've done it too. I was a kid. I was mean when I got put in places. I had to fight and whatever, and it was merciless. These people, it's like eat or be eaten. But there are things that I do that I did in the past that I think about all the time, and I wish I had that back. I've been chastised before too about making friends or trying to make amends with people because I understand people make mistakes. I understand people aren't perfect. A lot of people don't like me. A lot of people say a lot of mean things about me, whether they don't understand or they're just angry or they're jealous or whatever. And I understand that. And when people come to me, they're like, oh, you should just ignore the haters. We do. I would say how much do we ignore, Anthony? Tony?
95% of it, because it happens very often, and you'll never hear about it. And that's because most of the time, you're right, it's not worth addressing. It's not worth the time. It's just random people having what they call fun on the internet. Just leave it at that. It doesn't matter.
Just expressing their own opinions. Like for the most part, we don't care. Like what you say, it's just there are some things that we can't tolerate, and we see that, like we have to point it out because that's the type of behavior that we don't accept on our channel, and that's why we point it out so that people have an understanding of where where our boundaries are.
And when it starts to affect people who have been there for us, and we just let it go and just ignore it, then that is enabling that behavior. And the people who care about you, they're gonna notice when you see someone giving them grief and causing them pain and causing them trouble, and you didn't stand by them. That's why sometimes it's very important to speak up. There is a time to let things go, and there is a time to take a stand. And at the end of taking that stand, then there will come a time for forgiveness, God willing. But it's not always appropriate to just let it go, to just ignore it. Most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, it is, because we are commanded to do so. But the Bible says that there is a time for everything under the sun, and we have to remember that too. We can't just cherry pick what we are commanded to believe. That's the bottom line. There is no in between here.
So, that being said, I'm willing to forgive because that's our job. But I'm not willing to let hurt happen. And you can hurt me all day long. I've been whipped to, into oblivion. It does, there's nothing you can do to me personally, that's going to hurt me is any worse than I've already been hurt. I mean, you could torture me all day. It's not going to matter. I've been through the pain. I've suffered it. It doesn't, nobody wants to see their loved ones hurt. Nobody wants to see people being threatened or hurt or anything like that. I mean, it's incorrect and not acceptable. But we have to understand, too, that not everybody is the bad guy. Some people are misled. And you have to learn to understand. You have to understand and learn to forgive that. So that is my final message for you tonight. We hope that things can settle down and we can all get along. But don't expect it, because that's not how the real world works.
I like to say, when green grass grows, you can expect weeds to come around.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, we in my household, we've been in pain. We've been hurting. We've been, I try to mask it with humor and try to make, light of it. But it hurts. Some of the things that are being said and the
Accusations that are being thrown around.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts. We're people. We have emotion. We have feelings. And we try to bring this. We're going to try and make sure the show is as little affected as possible. Yeah, but it's hard. You have to kind of. So, anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. We will be here Sunday, and we will be talking and telling those stories. Remind me to tell the stories I was telling you earlier, to get those out to you. Those encounters of people that reached out to us. And
remember, that's the mermaid, and then the bell? No, I'm sorry.
The what?
The Black Forest Inn or something like that. I can't remember.
The what?
The Black Inn or something. The Black Swan Inn. Black Swan Inn. I couldn't remember the middle word.
What are you talking about?
He would have remembered if he went with us.
Black Swan Inn.
Yeah. I didn't want to go because you guys were attacked and so by demons or in that.
Whatever.
You had no idea what the Black Swan Inn even was.
No, you just didn't want to go.
As far as you knew, it was just a normal.
That's why
I saw the Black Swan. I didn't like it, and I was like, I don't want to go there.
Oh yeah. He thought it was a yoga place or something.
Truth is, he thought he might have to do some work or like exercise or something. So
Yeah.
I was like, forget that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, the Black Swan Inn is a story that we were given about the Black Swan Inn. Somebody who had rode. You don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it, and it was very intriguing. And we waited for her to get back to us, and she did. So that's that story, and then we'll get into the story of what happened at Kemah, or what happened in the Philippines, and then we'll talk also about a few things about skinwalkers. So tune in on Sunday, folks. We will see you then. I don't know if Bettina's going to have a show tomorrow night. She's pretty drained. She's pretty zapped. She's been harassed to just into oblivion. And so we were going to do a show together tomorrow night and talk about, the cryptids and ghosts and whatever, but I don't know if she's up for it because she's not been doing too good. So, folks, please pray for her. Please pray for Bettina. She needs it, and she's not doing good. Okay, folks, thank you, and good night.